Chapter 92. That's right. Who do you think you are? How many stars do you have? Being in the same team as a 2-star heavenly mandate, he should also be a piece of trash. What right does he have to criticize us? The 8-star Destiny Realm cultivators who had just mocked Yixing also mocked him one after another. Yixing was already immune to the mockery of others. He wasn't angry at all and his expression was normal. However, at this moment, Yixing's face revealed a strange expression. It was one thing for these genius students to mock him, but they actually wanted to mock Wei Qingxian. This time, their faces would probably be slapped swollen. When had Wei Qingxian ever been called a piece of trash? Her face immediately turned pale as she placed her hand on the Blood Life Stone. In an instant, the Blood Life Stone glowed and the 9-star slots lit up one after another. The students immediately stopped mocking him. Previously, no one had ever been able to make the Blood Life Stone glow so brightly or make the star slots light up so quickly. Almost in the blink of an eye, 3 lit up. In the next blink, 6 lit up. In the next blink, 9 lit up. All 9-star slots were lit up. 9-star destiny. Apart from Yixing, who already knew this would happen, all the cultivators present were shocked and dumbfounded. A 9-star Destiny Realm cultivator could cultivate to the 9th stage of the martial path. Basically, they could become a grandmaster before the age of 20, which was a level higher than an 8-star Destiny Realm cultivator. Even though the Violet Mountain Academy was known as the Cradle of Geniuses, it was rare for a 9-star Heaven's Mandate to appear in each batch. With a higher Fate star, one's future achievements would be one level higher. Although it was not absolute, it could be said to be absolute. Among 10,000 people, at least 9,999 would be like this. Only the other 1 in 10,000 would be able to surpass those with a higher destiny through luck and fortune. Those with a higher destiny than him were almost negligible. The 8-star destiny students who mocked Wei Qingxian earlier felt their faces burning. If she was trash, then they were trash among trash. Wei Qingxian recalled what Mu Feng had said. Her heavenly fate might not be limited to 9 stars. Hence, she did not move her hand away when all 9-star slots were lit up. The red light in the 9-star slots of the Blood Life Stone became more and more intense and dazzling. However, there were no other changes. He didn't know if it was because the Blood Fate Stone's grade was too low and couldn't determine a fate beyond 9 stars, or if Wei Qingxuan's fate was only 9 stars. Even if Wei Qingxian was only a 9-star Heaven's Mandate, one could tell from the blinding light that her aptitude might be higher than ordinary 9-star Heaven's Mandates. Looking at the dazzling red light, the hearts of the students changed and they looked up to Wei Qingxian. From this moment onwards, Wei Qingxian became a popular figure in the junior gifted class. Although Wei Qingxuan's face was covered with a veil and the students couldn't see her face, they automatically imagined Wei Qingxian to be a peerless beauty. The female students were naturally envious and jealous, while the male students were all over the moon and treated Wei Qingxian as their goddess. Wei Qingxuan's 9-star Heaven's Mandate shocked Xiong Qixing too. He stared blankly, which made him even more confident. She's mine. She's mine. I must make her my woman. As for Mo Xiaocang, when he saw the powerful red light, his eyes flashed with shock as he thought of an even more shocking result. Seeing that there were no other changes to the Blood Life Stone, Wei Qingxian lowered her hand in disappointment. Wei Qingxian didn't rush back to the students. Instead, she said to Mo Xiaocang, "Teacher Mo, although I'm a 9-star Heaven's Mandate and my cultivation is higher than Yixing's, my strength can't compare to Yixing's. Yixing's future won't be below mine either. Why can't he be in the gifted class?" This. Mo Xiaocang wanted to refute, but he hesitated when he thought of Wei Qingxuan's aptitude. Mo Xiaocang used to be the top genius of the Indigo Mountain Academy's gifted class. After graduating, he stayed in the academy to work. First, he was a deacon of the gifted class. Later, he broke through to the 9th level and became a teacher of the gifted class. Other than the vice principals, he was also a top figure in the Indigo Mountain Academy. If Wei Qingxian was also a 9-star heaven's mandate, he naturally wouldn't hesitate. However, he knew that the blood life stone was of the lowest grade and couldn't test a higher mandate. After Wei Qingxian was tested as a 9-star heaven's mandate, the bright red light it emitted was much stronger than his. This made Mo Xiaozang wonder if Wei Qingxuan's mandate had surpassed the 9-star heaven's mandate and reached the martial saint heaven's mandate. If that was the case, then Wei Qingxian was a future martial saint. This made Mo Xiaozang apprehensive. Mo Xiaozang had his misgivings, but Xiong Qisheng had no misgivings. He already regarded Wei Qingxian as his woman. How could he let Yixing stay in the gifted class? Naturally, he wanted to trample Yixing to death and completely cut off Wei Qingxuan's thoughts. Xiong Qisheng said, "Junior Qingxian, you're wrong. You're a 9-star heaven's mandate and your future is bright. He's only a 2-star heaven's mandate. Even if he has some good fortune and his strength is greater than yours now, how can he compare to you in the future?" He. Xiong Qisheng said with a smile. He glanced at the other students and continued, "Let alone you, junior sister apprentice Qingxian, even the other juniors are not comparable to that trash. The students of the gifted class can at least become martial Dao masters in the future, but he." Xiong Qisheng's gaze fell on Yixing and his tone became extremely disdainful. "Once you've had a fortuitous encounter, it's hard for you to have it a second time. How can you be blessed with providence every time? If he's really lucky and can become a martial Dao master in the future, then he can be accepted into the gifted class. But now, he can't be placed in the gifted class just based on his current strength. He doesn't have that qualification." Xiong Qisheng's tone became gloomy. His eyes narrowed and a cold light flashed. He stared at Yixing like a vicious snake and let out a sneer. He. "Unless he can pass my test, then his trash aptitude can be ignored and he can continue to be a student of the gifted class. Yixing, do you have the guts to let me test your strength?" Everyone looked at Yixing. They could tell from Xiong Qisheng's tone that Xiong Qisheng was targeting Yixing. If Yixing dared to accept the challenge, he would definitely be beaten up badly. Xiong Qisheng tried his best to make Yixing take the initiative to fight with him, but Yixing wouldn't fall for it. He smiled indifferently and said, "I'd better go to the ordinary class. But don't worry, even if I'm in the ordinary class, it'll be easy for me to beat you in 3 months." Yixing wasn't afraid of making a big deal out of it. Only a few people knew about the 3-month agreement yesterday, but today, he wanted everyone to know. "Didn't you want to step on me? Then I'll step on you to death." A student of the elite class, an 8-star heaven's mandate realm genius, was defeated by a new student who just entered the academy for 3 months. "Let's see where you'll put your face at that time. You forced me to go to the ordinary class. When the time comes, the ordinary class new student will defeat you in 3 months. It'll only make you look more like a failure." Yixing thought in his heart. He didn't have the thought of going to the Marquis's mansion to report this matter to Grandmaster Mu Feng. If he needed to find connections and rely on others to solve a small problem, it would only prove his incompetence. So what if he was in the ordinary class? Although it was less than half of the star accumulating pill, Yixing believed that he wouldn't stay in the ordinary class for long. When he defeated Xiong Qisheng in front of everyone, the academy would invite him back to the elite class. Otherwise, if a student from the ordinary class was above the elite class, everyone would say that the academy was blind. Yixing didn't accept the challenge, which made Xiong Qisheng very depressed. As a student of the elite class, he couldn't deal with Yixing for no reason. If he did, he would be cursed as a senior bullying a junior. The Indigo Mountain Academy was very particular about its reputation. Therefore, without a suitable excuse, he really couldn't harm Yixing's life. He could only suppress Yixing, but at most, he could only force Yixing to go to the ordinary class. He couldn't force Yixing to drop out because he didn't have that ability. Soon, all the students finished testing their heavenly fate. Apart from Yixing, the lowest heavenly fate was 9 6-star heavenly fate. Among them, there were naturally 5 unlucky people who were picked out and assigned to the ordinary class along with Yixing. Because in order to prove their strength, they needed to fight Xiong Qisheng. Those 5 unlucky people didn't dare to challenge a senior from the elite class. Their names were confirmed. After handing over his elite class identity card, Yixing received his ordinary class identity card. His number was ordinary class 10, room 175. Yixing, go find Grandmaster Mu. Grandmaster Mu will definitely uphold justice for you. Wei Qingxian was very indignant about this. Yixing patted her shoulder and said, "There's no need to trouble Grandmaster Mu with such a small matter. I can handle it myself. Just watch, it won't be long before the academy takes the initiative to invite me back to the elite class." Yixing and the 5 6-star Heavenly Fate were sent to the ordinary class's dormitory by the academy's deacon. On the way, Xiong Qisheng caught up and called Yixing to the side. He whispered, "Trash, when you're in the ordinary class, I'll have plenty of chances to kill you." Yixing's eyes were like knives as he stared at Xiong Qisheng with a look of contempt. "Bring it on. If you can't kill me, 3 months later, I'll make you the biggest joke of the Purple Mountain Academy. At that time, let's see if you still have the face to live in this world." Xiong Qisheng's eyes were cold as he said, "Do you think you can still live for 3 months? Hee, so what if you can live for 3 months? It won't be long before I step into the 8th stage of the martial Tao and become a martial scholar. At that time, we'll see who lives and who dies." With that, Xiong Qisheng turned to leave. But suddenly, he thought of something and turned back to continue speaking. "When I become an 8th stage martial scholar, I'll ask my master for a marriage between me and Wei Qingxian. Hee, you should know that my master is the vice principal Wang. If the vice principal wants a marriage, who dares to disobey? Haha. Only 1 place away from the overall ranking. Brothers, every vote has the chance to send the archer god to the overall ranking. Please recommend it. In addition, Qitian is making a list of the best works of 2014. You can vote for the Archer God on the Archer God's homepage. And, the Archer God was released on the 11th of November 2014. Naturally, it's a work of 2014. Hee, if you think the Archer God is good, please vote for it." Chapter 93. As Xiong Qisheng left, Yixing's eyes flashed with a cold, murderous glint. Yixing really wanted to kill Xiong Qisheng. If he had the chance, he would not let it go. The deacons did not care about the conflicts between the students. They would only intervene if a fight broke out in front of them. Naturally, they did not interfere with Yixing and Xiong Qisheng. When Yixing returned, the deacons sent the 6 of them to the ordinary class dormitory and left. The ordinary class had already been allocated to different classes and dormitories, so the 6 people who came later were all allocated to ordinary class 10. 2 of them were in dormitory 174, and 4 were in dormitory 175. The other 3 who were allocated to dormitory 175 with Yi Crossing were Wu Yuan, Massachusetts Bo, and Nie Dong. The 3 of them were young, about the same age as Yixing. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo's cultivation were at the mid-6th level, while Nie Dong was at the peak of the 6th level. In terms of destiny and cultivation, the 3 of them were on par with Gu Yijian and Xiong Qifeng. However, the 3 of them were 1 year younger than Gu Yijian and Xiong Qifeng, so their potential was greater. They were recruited into the genius class by the Marquis residence, who was in charge of recruiting students. Yixing had just entered the dormitory when he suddenly felt a gust of wind at the back of his head. Nie Dong, who was walking behind Yixing, suddenly attacked and threw a punch at the back of Yixing's head. Nie Dong had been at the peak of the 6th level for a longer time than Xiong Qifeng. His cultivation was more stable, and his inner force was more vigorous. The power of his punch was terrifying. Although Yixing had perfected the bronze tactic, he had not mastered the iron head technique. The back of his head would definitely not be able to withstand this punch. Nie Dong's punch came extremely quickly, and it was beyond Yixing's expectations. However, Yixing's reaction was extremely fast, and he immediately stepped into the Big Dipper. Stage of transformation, 7 stars step. Just as Nie Dong's fist was about to land on the back of Yi Xing's head, Yi Xing's body transformed into a series of afterimages. In the blink of an eye, he dashed forward and appeared on the other side of the dormitory, dodging the punch. You dare to sneak attack me? Yi Xing's eyes were like swords as he stared at Nie Dong and shouted. If his 7-star steps hadn't reached perfection, he definitely wouldn't have been able to dodge that punch. If the opponent's sneak attack had been ordered by Xiong Qisheng, the consequences would have been unimaginable. If a high-ranked student bullied a low-ranked student, it would affect the academy's reputation and the academy would punish them severely. However, fights between freshmen were common and there was nothing they could do about it. Geniuses of the younger generation were proud and arrogant. When geniuses from different places gathered together, it was very normal for fights to break out. If one were to accidentally injure the other party in a fight, although they would be punished by the academy, it would be relatively light. Flames of anger burned in Yi Xing's eyes. There was already a ball of fire in his heart, and Nie Dong's actions had completely ignited it. Moreover, he had no grudge against Nie Dong. Why would the latter attack him? It was very likely that he had been ordered by Xiong Qisheng. This made Yi Xing even angrier. Nie Dong was surprised that Yi Xing had dodged the punch. His face was filled with surprise. Coupled with Yi Xing's shout, Nie Dong's eyes suddenly darted away. A flaw appeared in his heart. However, Nie Dong's dodging gaze only lasted for a moment. He calmed down and glared at Nie Dong. That's right. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been kicked out of the gifted class. Today, I'll beat you to death. Behind him, Wu Yuan and Ma Bo walked in and slammed the dormitory door shut. They stood on either side of Nie Dong and glared at Yi Xing fiercely. Ma Bo sneered. Wu Yuan said, That's right. It's all because of you that we were kicked out of the gifted class. Today, we'll beat you to death. Seeing that the three of them seemed to have made an agreement, Yi Xing sneered in his heart. How could he not understand that the three of them must have been ordered by Xiong Qisheng? Otherwise, even if the three of them were dissatisfied with him, they wouldn't have jumped out together to deal with him, a LV5 martial artist. Xiong Qisheng ordered you to deal with me. Yi Xing's sharp gaze swept across the faces of the three of them. After all, the three of them were young and not too shrewd. When Yi Xing said the truth, their expressions changed slightly. Of course, they knew that this matter couldn't be exposed. They tried their best to hide the panic in their hearts and tried their best to appear angry. What nonsense are you talking about? We don't even know Senior Xiong, Ma Bo said, pretending to be calm. Nie Dong was obviously the leader of the three. He waved his hand and said, Don't talk nonsense with this trash. Beat him to death. Xiong Qisheng had told the three of them that Yi Xing's strength was not weaker than any of them. That was why Nie Dong had launched a sneak attack on Yi Xing when he entered the dormitory. Since the sneak attack failed, the three of them naturally had to work together to deal with Yi Xing. Xiong Qisheng had already told them how to deal with the aftermath after beating Yi Xing to death. They would say that Yi Xing had gone berserk in the dormitory because he was kicked out of the gifted class and wanted to kill people. In order to protect themselves, the three of them had mistakenly killed Yi Xing while resisting. As Nie Dong spoke, he took out a dagger from his sleeve. The dagger shone with a cold light. Its grade was no lower than the one Yi Xing had obtained from the masked assassin. It was obviously an upper-grade weapon. The three of them attacked at the same time. Nie Dong used the dagger technique, Wu Yuan used the fist technique, and Ma Bo used the palm technique. All of them were upper-grade martial arts techniques as they attacked Yi Xing. Even though Xiong Qisheng had warned them that Yi Xing's strength was not weaker than any of them, the three of them did not think much of Yi Xing. They were the top geniuses in their respective cities and were all level 6 martial artists. In their opinion, it would be easy for the three of them to kill a level 5 martial artist if they worked together. However, they were wrong. Very wrong. Yi Xing, who had used the 7-star steps of the Transcendent Realm, dodged Wu Yuan's fist like a phantom. At the same time, his fists moved and turned into countless fist shadows. It was the upper-grade martial arts technique, Thousand Shadow Fist. Bam 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 bam, before Nie Dong's dagger and Ma Bo's fist landed on Yixing, the two of them were hit several times by Yixing and were forced to retreat. The two of them vomited blood. They were severely injured, especially Nie Dong, who was Yixing's main target. Nie Dong even vomited pieces of his internal organs. It was obvious that Yixing had hit him hard. This was not a competition in the arena. Yixing had no intention of hiding his strength. Once he used the Thousand Shadow Fist, no one under the level 7 could match him, unless the opponent was a martial Dao master. The three of them together were no match for Yixing. In one move, Nie Dong and Ma Bo were both severely injured. Wu Yuan was horrified and quickly retreated. However, the dormitory was only so big. Where could he retreat to? Yixing's 7 stars steps was so fast that he appeared in front of Wu Yuan in the blink of an eye. The dense fist shadows continued to attack. It was the Thousand Shadow Fist again. Spare me! Wu Yuan screamed. Bang 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 bang, after a few deep sounds, Wu Yuan was sent flying by Yixing. He also vomited blood and was severely injured. In 2 moves, the three of them were completely defeated. They were all injured by Yixing. At this time, Ma Bo, who was slightly injured, had already gotten up from the ground and rushed to the door. If the door was open, he could rush out of the dormitory in the blink of an eye. Unfortunately, they had locked the door. Before Ma Bo could use his identity card to open the door, Yixing was already behind him. He grabbed his collar and slapped Ma Bo back. With Yixing blocking the door, the other three in the dormitory were like turtles in a jar. At this time, the three of them were no longer arrogant. Only fear and shock remained in their eyes. They never imagined that Yixing's strength had reached such a level. Chapter 94. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo killing Nie Dong with their own hands was equivalent to showing their loyalty to Yixing. The two of them didn't dare to reveal the truth. Otherwise, Yixing would naturally be punished. However, the two of them were the ones who killed Nie Dong, so their punishment would be even heavier than Yixing's. Their lives might even be in danger. The only way was to agree with Yixing's statement and say that Nie Dong was possessed by a demon and went berserk in the dormitory. He ambushed them, and they retaliated by mistake. Only then would they be punished lightly by the academy. Yixing unsealed their mute acupoints and said, "What did Xiong Qisheng tell you? Tell me everything." Xiong Qisheng wasn't just a student of the advanced genius class, he was also an 8-star heavenly mandate genius and the vice principal's disciple. Even now, the two of them were still afraid of Xiong Qisheng and didn't dare to betray him. Yixing said, "Your lives are still in my hands. Do you think you can live if you don't make things clear?" Wu Yuan and Ma Bo glanced at each other. They both knew that Yixing wasn't someone easy to deal with. Now that their lives were in Yixing's hands, if they didn't make things clear and let him feel at ease, Yixing wouldn't let them off. "Xiong wants us to kill you in the dormitory and say that you were expelled from the gifted class and went berserk. You ambushed the three of us in the dormitory. The three of us fought back together and killed you by mistake. This way, we'll only receive a lighter punishment from the academy. After this, Senior Xiong promised to transfer us back to the gifted class as soon as possible." Senior Brother Yi, you know Senior Xiong's connections in the academy. We betrayed him and he will definitely take revenge. We're willing to follow Senior Brother Ye's lead and ask for your protection. Since they had decided not to listen to Xiong Qisheng, they naturally had to stand with Yixing. Moreover, the two of them had witnessed Yixing's terrifying strength and were truly shocked in their hearts. It could be said that they were sincerely convinced of Yixing's strength. They were also very optimistic about Yixing's future. Perhaps in the future, Yixing would really achieve great things and they would be able to benefit from it. Yixing had little influence in the Purple Mountain Institute. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo were in the same dormitory as him. If he could use them, it would be for the best. Yixing nodded and said, since you are on my side, I will naturally not let you be harmed by Xiong Qisheng. However, if you want me to trust you, this is not enough. You have to write down what Xiong Qisheng said to you, sign it and give it to me. If you listen to me, this proof of loyalty will never be seen by anyone. Otherwise, you know what will happen. Yes, we will listen to Senior Brother Yi. Although they were still somewhat unwilling in their hearts, since they had made a decision, they naturally could not be half-hearted. They could only write down a true proof of loyalty. The matter of Nie Dong going crazy in the dormitory and sneaking up on Yixing, Wu Yuan, and Ma Bo, only to be mistakenly killed by the three of them, quickly spread throughout the Purple Mountain Institute. A fight between new students, no matter how fierce it was a small matter. However, once a life was lost, it was a big matter. The entire institute was alarmed. Although there were students who died every year in the Purple Mountain Institute, some of them died in fights. This was the first time someone had died on the first day of school. Are you sure what you said is the truth? Nie Dong really went crazy in the dormitory. Sneak attacked you. If there is any falsehood, not only will you be punished for murder, but you will also be punished for bullying your superiors. The teacher in charge of ordinary class 10, Cui Haoren, looked sternly at Yixing, Wu Yuan, and Ma Bo as he interrogated them. On the side, there were many other teachers who were eyeing Yixing and the other two like tigers watching their prey. Moreover, there were many students nearby who were watching. Even students from the genius class had rushed over after hearing the news. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo were nervous, but Yixing's expression was calm as he said, Nie Dong was still brooding over being eliminated from the genius class and harbored a grudge against me. As soon as we entered the dormitory, he launched a sneak attack on me. Fortunately, this student dodged quickly and only received a dagger wound on my shoulder. Otherwise, this student would already be a dead man if he slit my throat. Yixing's words were false but true. Thus, he spoke with great confidence and conviction. After that, it was thanks to Wu Yuan and Ma Bo's help that I managed to escape from Nie Dong's hands. However, Nie Dong was too strong. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo couldn't bear to fight to the death at first and were also heavily injured by Nie Dong. In the end, we could only fight with our lives on the line. Nie Dong couldn't withstand the combined forces of the three of us and was accidentally killed by us in a battle of life and death, resulting in a tragedy. Wu Yuan also nodded and said, this student was heavily injured by Nie Dong and was almost stabbed in the heart by his dagger. Fortunately, Senior Brother Yi injured Nie Dong with his pulse-severing palm and I managed to snatch the dagger back. At that time, I panicked and stabbed forward. At that time, I didn't intend to stab Nie Dong's heart, so this student stopped halfway because, Ma Bo continued, because when Nie Dong was injured by Senior Brother Ye's pulse-severing palm, his body paused for a moment and he was hit by a few punches from me. His body hit the wall and bounced back. Unfortunately, he hit the dagger in Wu Yuan's hand, right at his heart. He died instantly. We wanted to save him, but it was already too late. Naturally, Yixing and the other two had already planned out their excuses. Their words were watertight and he finally concluded. Nie Dong was our roommate, but he was accidentally killed by the three of us. Although he was the one who injured us first, the three of us still blame ourselves and are willing to accept the Academy's punishment. The wounds on Nie Dong's body and the dagger that pierced his heart were reasonable and without any flaws. Almost everyone believed the three of them. However, there was one person who didn't believe them. Xiong Qisheng said loudly, liar, they're lying. Nie Dong was deliberately killed by them. Nie Dong and the other two were under Xiong Qisheng's orders. When he heard that Nie Dong was dead, he naturally rushed here. Because Nie Dong and the other two were under his orders, his heart was as clear as a mirror. Yixing and the other two were lying. In the face of Xiong Qisheng's yelling, Yixing sneered in his heart and said, Teacher Cui, I'm telling the truth. However, I'm curious as to why Nie Dong would suddenly go berserk. Could it be that he was under someone's orders to kill the three of us, so he pretended to go berserk so that he could kill us on purpose? Yixing's words immediately shut Xiong Qisheng up. If the academy found out that a senior genius class student had ordered a new student to kill someone on purpose, it would definitely be a big deal. Even if Xiong Qisheng's master was the vice dean, it would be difficult for him to escape punishment. However, this alone wouldn't be enough to kill Xiong Qisheng. Moreover, Wu Yuan and Ma Bo were Yixing's people now. Yixing naturally wouldn't reveal this matter. It was enough to just warn Xiong Qisheng. Nie Dong's actions were indeed strange, but Cui Haoren didn't want to look into it. Even if Yixing was telling the truth, the person who could order Nie Dong to do this was no ordinary person. It wouldn't be good for anyone if this matter was blown out of proportion. Cui Haoren said, "The academy will investigate this matter. However, no matter what, you will not be able to escape punishment for accidentally killing a fellow student. Yixing, Wu Yuan, Ma Bo, you will be punished to clean the library for a month. Are you willing to comply? Clean the library?" Yixing was instantly overjoyed. The library of the Zishan Academy should contain martial arts manuals, right? Student obeys. Yixing said. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo naturally didn't dare to object. Cui Haoren said, "Well, the library has been cleaned today. From tomorrow onwards, it will be handed over to the three of you for a month. The academy is clear about rewards and punishments. Students of the ordinary class can receive one upper grade accumulating star pill every month. The other students have already received it. Only the few of you from the gifted class haven't received it yet. Now, each of you can receive one." While speaking, Cui Haoren had already taken out 5 upper grade accumulating star pills. Not only Yixing and the other two, but also the 2 students of dormitory 174 who were eliminated from the gifted class had not received it yet. The 2 students walked out of the crowd and received a upper grade accumulating star pill from Cui Haoren along with Yixing and the other 2. Yixing was overjoyed. Originally, he was about to step into the 6th stage of the martial Dao. With this upper grade accumulating star pill, he would be able to break through immediately. "Yixing, my brother died because of you. I want to fight with you on the duel stage." As soon as Yixing received the upper grade accumulating star pill, someone in the crowd called out his name and shouted. Yixing looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young man of about 18 years old coming out of the crowd. The freshmen of the Purple Mountain Academy were generally 15 or 16 years old. There were not many 17 years old. An 18-year-old youth was even rarer. Generally, the students of the advanced class who had been in the academy for 3 years were at this age. For example, Xiong Qisheng was now in his early 18 years old. 3 years ago, he entered the Purple Mountain Academy at the age of 15. This person and Nie Dong did not look alike at all. Yixing did not realize that he and Nie Dong were brothers. He asked, "Who are you?" "Zhou Jianheng. He is at the peak of the 6th stage of the martial Dao. He is almost the strongest among all the freshmen of the ordinary class. Zhou Jianheng is a member of the Zhou family of the county city. The Zhou family is a martial arts family with a 9th stage Grand Master. How can he be Nie Dong's brother?" The crowd immediately exclaimed. Nie Dong came from an ordinary city, while Zhou Jianheng was a descendant of the Zhou family of the county city. It was difficult to connect the two. Although the Purple Mountain Academy had many spots in the county city, there were many martial arts families in the county city. Many of them were Grand Master or Martial Grandmaster level martial arts families. Their descendants were outstanding, so the competition was fierce. 3 years ago, Zhou Jianheng was only at the 5th stage of the martial Dao and did not get a spot. Now, he was at the peak of the 6th stage of the martial Dao. He could be considered one of the strongest students in this cohort. Chapter 95. In the academy, there were 2 types of arenas, one was the duel arena and the other was the life and death arena. The duel arena determined victory and defeat, while the life and death arena determined life and death. Most of the students fought in the duel arena. Only very few people fought in the life and death arena. Only those with great hatred would fight in the life and death arena. Seeing Yixing agree, Zhou Jianhong laughed. He didn't look sad or angry because of Nie Dong's death. Zhou Jianhong said, Yixing, since you want to fight in the duel arena, you should have some prizes. Otherwise, it will be a waste of effort. Yixing couldn't help but find it funny. Just now, he said that because of his cousin Nie Dong's death, he wanted to fight with Yixing on the duel arena. Now, it turned out to be a waste of effort. So what he said just now was just an excuse. His real intention was to make a bet with Yixing. Moreover, Yixing also understood why Zhou Jianhong chose to challenge him when Nie Dong's death was related to Wu Yuan and Ma Bo. It should be because Zhou Jianhong saw that he was only at the 5th layer of the martial path, the lowest among the 3. Yixing smiled and said, what do you want to bet on? Zhou Jianhong's eyes flashed and said, star accumulating pill. Whoever loses will give the other party a star accumulating pill. The academy ignored all gambling between students. The world of martial arts was full of danger. The academy was only responsible for teaching and some necessary discipline. It didn't restrict students from fighting in the arena. On the contrary, in order to improve the combat skills of the students, the academy also encouraged the students to duel in the ring and gamble on accumulating star pills. The academy had already distributed them to the students, and whether the students ate them or lost them to others, it didn't matter. Some students sighed, Zhou Jianhong is going to win another student's star accumulating pill. When Yixing heard these words, he immediately reacted. Zhou Jianhong should have more than one accumulating celestial pill on him and spoke up, it's not easy to enter the battle ring. How can one accumulating celestial pill be enough? I have 3 here. Do you dare to bet together? Yixing only had one accumulating celestial pill, however, if he used Wu Yuan and Ma Bo's accumulating celestial pills as his gambling capital, it wouldn't be a problem. He only had a cultivation at the 5th heavenly layer, so a high-rank accumulating star pill would be of great use to him. So, why wouldn't he be happy to earn 2 more accumulating star pills? How could Zhou Jianhong put Yixing, a level 5 martial artist, in his eyes? Hearing this, his eyes lit up. Originally, he wanted to challenge Wu Yuan and Ma Bo after defeating Yixing. Of course, the reason was that his cousin Nie Dong had died because of them, and he wanted to seek justice. Now that Yixing was willing to bet 3 pills with him, it was exactly what Zhou Jianhong wanted. It would save him the trouble of having to fight 3 times in a row. Not only would it be tiring, but it would also be troublesome. Zhou Jianhong cracked a smile, revealing 2 rows of snow-white teeth. Alright, I'll bet you 3. After saying that, he took out 3 accumulating star pills to prove that he had them. The dueling platform was not far away, so the 2 quickly went up to the battle ring. Because of Nie Dong's death, the audience for this duel was not only large but also very comprehensive. A large number of students gathered here, as well as many deacons and teachers of the academy. On the battle ring, Zhou Jianhong slowly drew his sword and said with a smile, country bumpkin from the county city, remember this young master's name, Zhou Jianhong. Your 3 high-rank accumulating star pills belong to me, Zhou Jianhong, haha. Zhou Jianhong's smile was very bright, but Yixing also had a smile on his face. Although he didn't smile as brightly as Zhou Jianhong, he was also in a very good mood. Yixing said, I can't wait to get the 3 high-rank accumulating star pills in your hands, haha. You also remember this young master's name, Yixing. No more nonsense, let's get started. Among the students present, except for a few who came from Azure Sky City, no one knew about Yixing's deeds. Seeing him, a 5th-layer martial artist, say the same words as Zhou Jianhong, they all unconsciously pursed their lips. He really doesn't know life from death. Many students secretly said in their hearts. On the battle ring, Zhou Jianhong's smile disappeared. A country bumpkin from an ordinary city dared to be so arrogant in front of him, which really made him angry. The other party was eliminated from the gifted class, so his potential and strength were obviously very ordinary. Zhou Jianhong shouted, country bumpkin, I'll let you broaden your horizons. I'll defeat you with one sword. As soon as his voice fell, a sword light, like a beam of moonlight, broke through the air in an instant and stabbed in front of Yixing. It had to be said that Zhou Jianhong's swordsmanship was very high. Although this sword did not stab at Yixing's vital points and was not ruthless, it was fast and accurate. The reason why it was not ruthless was because it was not a battle to the death. Zhou Jianhong's goal was to injure Yixing, not to assassinate him. However, just as the sword light was about to stab Yixing's body, Yixing suddenly stepped on the Big Dipper and his body was like a string of afterimages as he retreated backward. The tip of the sword seemed to have stabbed, but it also seemed like it did not. It stabbed at the edge of the afterimage. When Yixing's figure had completely retreated to the side, the crowd realized that the sword did not stab at all. Not only was Yixing not injured, but even his clothes were not torn. This made the faces of the students change. Yixing was only a fifth-layer martial artist, but he actually had such a brilliant movement technique. Zhou Jianhong's expression was very ugly. He said that he would defeat Yixing with one sword, but in the end, his sword did not even touch the corner of Yixing's clothes. Swish, cold light flashed and linked together. Zhou Jianhong continued to attack Yixing with his sword, each strike faster than the last. Yixing stepped on the Big Dipper and dodged the attacks by a hair's breadth. He kept counting, 1 slash, 2 slashes, 3 slashes. Soon, he counted to 10 strikes, but his opponent's strikes still missed. Zhou Jianhong did not pursue speed, and each strike was faster than the last. However, because of the anxiety in his heart, the energy in each strike was multiplied. When Yixing counted to 20 strikes, Zhou Jianhong was already panting. Suddenly, he realized that he had been tricked by Yixing. If he blindly attacked, he would die of exhaustion before Yixing could counterattack. Zhou Jianhong immediately withdrew his sword and retreated. He took a defensive stance and shouted, "You only know how to dodge with your movement technique. What kind of hero are you? Try attacking if you have the guts." Seeing that his opponent was no longer tricked, Yixing could only take the initiative to attack. In any case, his opponent had been attacking wildly before and was not in a good state. Furious Steel Fist. Yixing wore a metal glove and punched out. The fist momentum was monstrous and the power was terrifying. The furious steel fist of the perfection of martial arts. Everyone raised their eyebrows at him. Even the older generation of 6th-level martial artists found it extremely difficult to cultivate the low-grade martial arts to the perfection of martial arts. Yixing was so young, but he had cultivated the furious steel fist to the perfection of martial arts. Yixing performed the furious steel fist and punched several times in a row. Zhou Jianhong was shocked by his momentum and was attacked by his fist force. He retreated again and again. Yixing did not want to fight for a long time. After 3 punches, he immediately changed his martial arts technique. His fist turned into 1,000 shadows. Zhou Jianhong only felt a blur in front of his eyes. The sword in his hand was hit to the side. Then, there was a pain in his chest. He was hit by a punch and his whole person was suddenly blasted out of the ring. Yixing came to the edge of the ring and waved to Zhou Jianhong, "You let me win." Student Zhou Jianhong, 3 upper-grade accumulating star pills, give it to me. Zhou Jianhong's face was red. He, a martial artist at the peak of 6th level, was defeated by a 5th-level martial artist from an ordinary city? Not to mention Zhou Jianhong, most of the students around were stunned and shocked. Obviously, they did not expect this result. Many teachers and school deacons were also surprised and nodded repeatedly. They expressed surprise and appreciation for Yixing's strength. Under the watchful eyes of the public, Zhou Jianhong naturally could not act shamelessly. He threw 3 upper-grade accumulating star pills to Yixing and immediately left. He did not want to make a fool of himself here. Yixing got 3 upper-grade accumulating star pills and also returned to the dormitory with Wu Yuan and Ma Bo. He would clean the library tomorrow. He had nothing to do today, so he could go back and use the accumulating star pills to break through the 6th level of martial arts. Looking at Yi Xing's back, the students were shocked. Most of them had no grievances with Yi Xing, nor did they have any interest in him. They were all shocked by Yi Xing's powerful strength. In the hearts of the students in the ordinary class, Yi Xing was already one of the strongest among the freshmen. Many people even worshipped him. The strong naturally had admirers, and Yi Xing was one of the strongest among the freshmen. However, Xiong Qisheng looked at Yi Xing's back with hidden malice in his eyes. Although he forced Yi Xing to the ordinary class, he was completely defeated in the first confrontation with Yi Xing. Not only was Yi Xing not killed by Nie Dong and the other two, but Nie Dong died. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo even turned to Yi Xing's subordinates. Yi Xing and the other two received a very light punishment. They only had to clean the library for a month. Moreover, Yi Xing could be said to be doing very well in the common class. Not only did he earn a few more high-grade medicinal star pills, which were beneficial to the improvement of his cultivation, but he also became very famous. Among the students of the common class, he became a popular figure, admired by others, and had boundless glory. All of this made Xiong Qisheng feel very uncomfortable. Yi Xing, I'll let you be glorious this time. Next time, I'll definitely make you die without a burial place. Xiong Qisheng thought fiercely. Dormitory 175. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo stood in front of Yi Xing. Neither of them took the star-accumulating pill that Yi Xing brought back. A star-accumulating pill won't improve our cultivation by much, but it's very beneficial to senior brother Yi. Senior brother Yi, please take it. Yi Xing easily defeated Zhou Jianhong, which made the two feel that Yi Xing's future was extraordinary. Following Yi Xing would definitely benefit them in the future. Now, they naturally wanted to show their loyalty. Yi Xing nodded and said, "All right, I'll accept your star-accumulating pill. In the future, you will definitely benefit from it. You can go out first. I'm going to go into seclusion to break through to the 6th stage of the martial Tao." While he was in seclusion, Yi Xing was still worried. The two of them were also in the dormitory. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo left the dormitory. Yi Xing immediately took a star-accumulating pill to refine and absorb it. The medicinal efficacy of the upper-grade star-accumulating pill was many times stronger than that of the middle-grade star-accumulating pill. Yi Xing immediately felt an incomparably surging star force when he swallowed it. Yi Xing immediately operated Qingyuan art to quickly absorb and refine it. As time passed, the 5th star ring in Yi Xing's dantian became brighter and brighter. The 6th star ring was faintly discernible. About an hour later, the 6th star ring was finally completely revealed. Yi Xing's cultivation had broken through and officially stepped into the 6th stage of the martial Tao. With the breakthrough in cultivation, the restriction on the internal strength in the body instantly disappeared. The internal strength was no longer restricted to the flesh and began to spread to the skin. There was a lot of room for improvement. Although the fact that Zishan Ho was sitting in a wheelchair surprised her, she was still excited to see this martial saint whom she had heard of many times. "Feng, go take the test." Zishan Ho nodded towards Wei Qingxian, then instructed the young man behind him. Wang Feng, the absolute genius of the Wang family of the prefecture capital, Marshal Saint Tianming, had not entered the Purple Mountain Institute. At a young age, he had been accepted by Purple Mountain Ho as a personal disciple, and later adopted as his son. Now, Wang Feng was only 18 years old, about the same age as the students of the Purple Mountain Institute's advanced genius class, but his cultivation was already at the peak of the 9th rank. Compared to Xiong Qisheng, it was like comparing the light of a firefly to the light of the moon. Even the most talented student in the advanced genius class was not worth mentioning in front of Wang Feng. There was no comparison at all. Wang Feng was only respectful towards Zishan Ho, but ignored Mu Feng and Wei Qingxian. His expression was indifferent, but his heart was arrogant. He walked to Wei Qingshuan's side, waved his hand, and a blood destiny stone appeared on the table next to Wei Qingxian. Wei Qingxian was surprised. Only now did she notice that Wang Feng was wearing a ring with a star engraved on it. It should be the legendary star ring that had its own space inside. Ignorant. Wang Feng secretly said to himself at the surprise in Wei Qingxuan's eyes. Wang Feng retracted his hand and placed it behind his back. He then said, "Let's begin. Let's see if you have the warrior sage destiny." Wei Qingxian looked at the blood destiny stone on the table, which seemed to be no different from the blood destiny stones that were tested in the past. She reached out and pressed her hand on the blood destiny stone. All of a sudden, a strong red light shone and the star slots lit up one after another. The intensity of the red light and the speed at which the star slots lit up made Zishanho's eyes move a little, and he became more alert. In just 3 blinks of an eye, all 9 star slots lit up, and the red light became more and more intense until it was blinding. Immediately afterwards, there were new changes. In the blink of an eye, the light in the first star slot turned from red to orange. At this moment, Wang Feng, who had been indifferent, finally had a change of expression. Only the warrior sage destiny could attract his interest. He took another look at Wei Qingxian. Mu Feng nodded secretly with a smile on his face. He had long guessed that Wei Qingxian had more than 9 stars, and now, it was confirmed. After the first star slot turned orange, the changes did not stop. Soon, the light in the second and third star slots turned orange one after another. When the fourth star slot turned orange, Wang Feng's expression changed again and he seemed to be moved. Ordinary destiny stars were divided into 9 stars, just like the warrior sage destiny stars. The first 3 stars were the beginner warrior sage destiny stars, the middle 3 stars were the intermediate warrior sage destiny stars, and the last 3 stars were the advanced warrior sage destiny stars. Wang Feng was extremely arrogant and regarded the geniuses of Zishan County as nothing. Even when Wei Qingxian had the warrior sage destiny stars, he was only a little interested because he had a 5-star destiny star, which belonged to the intermediate warrior sage destiny stars. Wei Qingxuan's destiny star had also reached the intermediate warrior sage destiny stars and could compete with Wang Feng. Hence, he was naturally moved. However, Wei Qingxuan's destiny star was still not fully displayed, and the red light in the star slots continued to turn orange. In the blink of an eye, there was a change. When the red light in the 7th star slot turned orange, Wang Feng's face was already full of shock. The 7-star warrior sage destiny stars were already considered advanced. Not only were they 2 stars higher than Wang Feng's destiny stars, but they were also of a higher level. Seeing that Wei Qingxuan's destiny stars were so high, Mu Feng was both shocked and surprised. At this moment, even Zishanho was moved. Zishanho's destiny stars were the advanced warrior sage destiny stars. The red light on the blood life stone was unstoppable. Soon, the 8th and 9th star slots turned orange too. At this point, the red light on the blood life stone had completely disappeared and was replaced by an orange light. The orange light was so intense that it was not inferior to the previous red light at all. A look of surprise flashed in Zishanho's eyes as his heart trembled. This meant that Wei Qingxuan's destiny stars could be even higher. At this moment, Zishanho's eyes glowed with excitement. On the other hand, Mu Feng stared at the blood life stone with a slight pain in his eyes, but he was also extremely surprised. Although he had guessed that Wei Qingxuan's destiny stars were very high, he never expected it to be at such a level. A 9-star orange destiny star was the peak of the warrior sage destiny stars, which was only higher than Zishanho's. Wang Feng also never expected that Wei Qingxuan's destiny stars were not only higher than his, but also much higher than his. His heart was filled with excitement, and when he looked at Wei Qingxian again, he found her to be extremely pleasing to the eye. He was no longer as indifferent as before. Seeing that the blood life stone maintained its 9-star orange light and did not change, Wei Qingxian retracted her hand. The blood life stone immediately dimmed, but Wei Qingxuan's light did not dim. The other 3 all had a whole new level of respect for her. Zishanho said, "Very good, Wei Qingxian, your destiny stars are higher than I expected. From today onwards, you can directly enter the Advanced Genius class and enjoy special treatment. Furthermore, I will give you a good fortune in the future. Wei Qingxian gracefully bowed, many thanks, Zishan Ho. Wang Feng, who had already put away the blood life stone, was surprised. With Wei Qingshuan's talent, Zishan Ho actually did not accept her as a disciple. If Wei Qingxian was accepted as a disciple by Zishan Ho, then the two of them would be intimate and improve their relationship. However, Zishan Ho would not allow Wei Qingxian to remain as a student at Zishan Academy, because it would destroy the confidence of the other geniuses. Thinking that there would not be many opportunities to meet in the future, Wang Feng did not want to miss out on a girl with such high talent. He immediately asked Zishan Ho for instructions. Godfather, I have a presumptuous request, and I hope Godfather can fulfill it. Zishan Ho valued Wang Feng very much, otherwise he would not have accepted him as a personal disciple and then adopted him as a son. Wang Feng rarely asked him for requests, but as long as he did, Zishan Ho would always agree. He nodded and said, Speak. Wang Feng said, I fell in love with junior sister Wei at first sight, and I cannot control my feelings. I wish to make her my life partner, and I hope Godfather can fulfill it. Wang Feng was indeed moved by Wei Qingxian. The main reason was that he had always been high and mighty, and none of the so-called geniuses of the younger generation in the county city could enter his eyes, so he was arrogant in his heart. Suddenly, there was a girl whose destiny stars were higher than his. Immediately, the arrogance in his heart disappeared, and he was filled with admiration. Especially since this girl was a young girl, and he was only an 18-year-old youth. Naturally, he was moved. However, Wang Feng's attitude caused Wei Qingxian to feel disgust. Her face was covered with a veil, and Wang Feng could not even see her face, so how could he fall in love with her at first sight? Moreover, Wei Qingxian was very clear about Wang Feng's indifference towards her before. Now he said that it was love at first sight, and that he could not control his feelings. Who was he trying to fool? He only saw that her destiny stars were very high, and her talent was monstrous. She would have great achievements in the future, so he changed his mind. Displeasure appeared on Zishan Ho's face, and he said, Feng, if you want a girl to accompany you for life, how can you rely on the restrictions of your elders? You can only use your own sincerity to move others, and only then will they be willing to be with you. Do not mention this matter again. This was the first time he was rejected by Zishan Ho, and it was in front of Wei Qingxian. This caused Wang Feng's face to burn, and he said with slight disappointment, I understand. Lord Ho, this student also has a request. At this time, Wei Qingxian also asked Zishan Ho for instructions. Zishan Ho said with interest, Speak. Wei Qingxian was still thinking about Yixing's elimination from the gifted class, so she naturally repeated it. Yixing. Zishan Ho repeated this name. This was already the second time he had heard about Yixing. The first time was when Mu Feng had returned to the Marquis estate, and he had specially reported about Yixing and Wei Qingxian to Zishan Ho. Zishan Ho's point of view on this matter was similar to Mu Feng's. He said, low-level heavenly fate cultivators need to put in a lot of effort to become talented, and they also need a strong will. His hindrance is not necessarily a bad thing. I will pay attention to him, but I will not interfere with the matters of the academy. If he is gold, then the academy will not bury him. Chapter 97. Zishan Academy, Library. This was the place where Zishan Academy stored their martial arts manuals. In the first month that Yixing, Wu Yuan, and Ma Bo entered Zishan Academy, they didn't attend classes or cultivate. Instead, they were punished to clean the library. The Zishan Academy's library contained a vast amount of martial arts manuals. It was divided into 4 floors, from low-grade martial arts to supreme-grade martial arts. The library's 4th floor contained supreme-grade martial arts manuals. Most of them were incomplete, but there were also complete supreme-grade martial arts manuals. This floor was a forbidden area, and ordinary people were not allowed to enter. Yixing and the other 2 only had to clean the first 3 floors containing low-grade, mid-grade, and high-grade martial arts manuals. The martial arts manuals in the library could be read, but were not allowed to be copied. Every once in a while, the academy's deacons would patrol the library, and when they left, they would be inspected. If someone copied the martial arts manuals in the library, it was a very serious crime, and they would be crippled of their martial arts and expelled from the academy. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo were naturally in charge of cleaning the library. Yixing was in charge of reading books in the library, and only when the deacons patrolled the library did he pretend to clean. To Yixing, the library was a huge treasure. Whether it was the Ye family's martial arts pavilion or the Xiong family's martial arts pavilion, they were like small study rooms in front of the library, not worth mentioning. The martial arts manuals in the Ye family's and Xiong family's martial arts pavilions, excluding the duplicates, did not even amount to 100. But in Zishan Academy's library, there were more than 2,000 martial arts manuals, which was 10 times more than the 2 martial arts pavilions combined. Yixing had the super brain, but what he lacked was martial arts knowledge. The more martial arts manuals he read, the higher his understanding of martial arts theory would be, and the easier it would be for him to cultivate martial arts to a higher level. A martial arts manual could be as short as a few hundred words and as long as a few thousand words. Moreover, it involved the human body's meridians, blood, flesh, tendons, bones, skin, as well as the aura of the mountains and rivers, the changes of the sun, moon, and stars, the energy of the earth, water, wind, and fire, and so on. It was difficult to understand. Inferior grade martial arts and medial grade martial arts were still fine. The content involved was relatively simple. Normally, cultivators with some comprehension ability could learn by themselves through secret manuals. However, for superior grade martial arts and above, if there was no one to teach them, it would be like a heavenly book. For other martial artists, even if they were to seclude themselves in the library and read for a year, they wouldn't be able to remember many martial arts secret manuals. Furthermore, as time passed, their memories would gradually fade away. As for the martial arts secret manuals that could be understood, there were even fewer of them. But that was not the case for Yixing. Every time he flipped through a book, all of its contents would be scanned into his superbrain and stored there forever. Moreover, through the superbrain's powerful analysis function, it could verify and deduce different martial arts. This allowed Yixing to learn all kinds of martial arts secret manuals by himself, provided that his martial arts knowledge could keep up. For example, Yixing's martial arts knowledge was better than that of a martial Dao master. Therefore, it was very difficult for a martial Dao master to cultivate a superior grade martial arts to the mastery realm, but Yixing could. A person's ultimate martial arts attainment was related to their level of martial arts knowledge to a certain extent. It was hard to imagine what level Yixing's martial arts knowledge would reach if he read all the martial arts secret manuals in the library and comprehended them thoroughly. It was certain that he would have no problem cultivating a superior grade martial arts to the mastery realm. Yixing's reading speed was too fast. Even though he spent at least 2 hours a day pretending to clean, he could still read hundreds of martial arts secret manuals in a day. Yixing did not care whether he comprehended them or not. He just scanned them and copied them into his superbrain. He would think about the rest later. At night, Yixing cultivated Qingyuan art to improve his cultivation. He had already read the complete Qingyuan art manual in the library. He had already memorized the cultivation chants for the last 3 stages. With his talent in martial arts, it would not take long for him to make progress in Qingyuan art. In just 5 days, Yixing went through more than 2,000 martial arts secret manuals on the first 3 floors of the library. He did not read them carefully and did not understand their meanings, but the contents were all scanned into his superbrain. It was easy to scan them into his superbrain, but it was much more difficult to master them. Although it was only a matter of time for him to master them with the superbrain's powerful functions, it still required a lot of time. This was because the amount of knowledge was too large. Once Yixing mastered them, even a martial arts grandmaster would not be able to compare with him in terms of martial arts knowledge. Mastering martial arts was not something that could be done in haste. Yixing was not in a hurry. Every day, he focused on cultivating martial arts. In the process of cultivation, all kinds of martial arts would naturally be slowly mastered. Time passed slowly, day after day. Yixing's martial arts knowledge level improved by leaps and bounds. His actual martial arts attainment also increased every day. One after another, Yixing successfully cultivated the inferior grade martial arts to the perfection realm. As Yixing's knowledge of martial arts increased, the super brain deduced and improved the Qingyuan art again. It improved the Qingyuan art to the level of a supreme grade cultivation method, allowing him to open up 15 meridians for cultivation. With the help of the 4 high-grade star accumulation pills, Yixing's cultivation base also increased rapidly. When Wei Qingxian learned that Yixing was punished, she came to visit Yixing several times after cleaning the library. She saw that Yixing did not look like he was punished at all. Instead, he was high-spirited and in a good mood. Wei Qingxian was completely relieved. On the 10th day, Yixing's Qingyuan art made progress and broke through to the 4th level. The first 3 levels of Qingyuan art opened up the meridians, and the last 3 levels strengthened the internal strength. The 4th level of internal strength made Yixing stronger than martial artists of the same level. He was only at the early stage of LV6, but in terms of internal strength, he was stronger than those in the middle stage of LV6. On the 15th day, Yixing's cultivation level finally improved and reached the middle stage of LV6. Even a genius would need several months to improve the cultivation level of LV6. Yixing's cultivation level improved by a small level in just half a month. It could be seen that the superior grade Qingyuan art was really effective. Of course, the 4 superior grade star accumulating pills also contributed a lot. Without the help of star accumulating pills, his cultivation would be slower. Yixing only used half a month to go from the early stage of LV6 to the middle stage of LV6. However, even if another month and a half passed, Yixing might not be able to cultivate from the middle stage of LV6 to the late stage of LV6. Yixing and the other 2 went to the library every day and stayed in dormitory 175 at night. They did not have much interaction with the other students. The other students also did not have time to pay attention to Yixing and the other 2. The month before entering the academy was the busiest month, because after the first month, the academy would conduct an assessment for all the new disciples. The top-ranked students would be given generous rewards to encourage the students to compete for the top spots. Therefore, in the first month, if the new students were not listening to the teacher's lessons, they would be cultivating by themselves. Almost no one paid attention to Yixing and the other 2. Not only were the new students busy, but the advanced class students were also very busy. Their assessment was in 3 months and the level of rewards was much higher than the new students' assessment. Naturally, they were also busy cultivating. However, even so, Xiong Qisheng did not cause trouble for Yixing during this period of time, which surprised him. Although he was surprised, Yixing was happy in his heart. It was best if there was no trouble. As time passed, when Yixing cultivated more than 100 low-grade martial skills to the perfection stage, he had already taken a small step towards mastering the various martial skills stored in his super brain. The level of his martial skills had increased by a large margin. Yixing had a feeling that his middle-grade martial skills seemed to have touched the edge of the perfection stage. Therefore, in addition to cultivating low-grade martial skills, Yixing also began to cultivate middle-grade martial skills every day. On the 25th day of his punishment, Yixing's martial skills reached another milestone. The middle-grade martial skill, Tiger Stallion Fist, was cultivated to the perfection stage. This was the first time that Yixing had cultivated a middle-grade martial skill to the perfection stage. Previously, his 7 stars steps and flying swan technique were only at the perfection stage. It was because he had fused a trace of wind force that he was able to stand at the perfection stage. When a middle-grade martial skill reached the perfection stage, it was even easier to cultivate the other middle-grade martial skills. In the next few days, almost every day, there would be 1 or 2 middle-grade martial skills that reached the perfection stage. Yixing's martial arts attainment had already reached the level of a martial arts grandmaster. Only a true martial arts grandmaster could easily cultivate a middle-grade martial arts technique to the martial arts grandmaster level. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the last day of his punishment. In the past month, Yixing's knowledge of martial arts and his attainments in martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds. He had undergone a tremendous change. As his martial arts attainments increased, Yixing's temperament changed as well. His every move was natural and natural. He looked like a martial Dao master of a generation. At night, in dormitory 175, Yixing was sitting cross-legged, cultivating Qingyuan technique. A month had passed, and tomorrow was the day of the assessment. According to the news brought by Wei Qingxian, the progress of the students in the gifted class had been very fast. Many 8-star Destiny Realm students were originally at the peak of the 6th level. However, with the help of the high-grade star accumulating pill and the guidance of the 9th level martial Dao master, at least 10 of them had broken through to the 7th level and became martial Dao masters. Not only that, under the guidance of the 9th level martial Dao master, the martial skills of the gifted class had also increased rapidly. It was inevitable for them to cultivate their high-grade martial skills to the entry stage. Those with outstanding talent had already cultivated their high-grade martial skills to the lesser success stage, or even beyond that. The assessment was the time for Yixing to prove himself. The academy had eliminated him to the ordinary class, so he used this fact to tell everyone who was the real genius. Therefore, regardless of whether it was for the reward of first place or to prove his strength, Yixing was determined to obtain first place in this new student assessment. He wanted to defeat all the freshmen in the gifted class. This was his response to the academy eliminating him to the ordinary class. Yixing's cultivation was still far from the late stage of the 6th level. He only had one night left, so the reason why he was diligently cultivating Qingyuan technique was naturally not to increase his cultivation. It was because his Qingyuan technique was only a step away from the 5th level. If he could break through, his internal energy would be strengthened. This was even better than raising his cultivation to the late stage of the 6th level. Hard work paid off. Yixing's Qingyuan technique had broken through to the 5th level. Chapter 98. On the day of the assessment, the Zishan Academy was extremely lively. This was the most important day for the freshmen, and all the freshmen would participate in it. The venue of the assessment was the Academy Square, which had been divided into 20 areas. The competition was divided into 20 groups. The group stage adopted a point system. The first and second place in each group could enter the second stage of the competition for the knockout round. There were 3 rounds in the knockout round to determine the top 20, top 10, and top 5. The top 5 would participate in the points competition, and the first to 5th would be ranked according to the winning percentage. As long as the 769 freshmen could rush out of the first stage of the points competition as the top 2 in the group, they would enter the top 40 and receive the Academy's rewards. Of course, the rewards would be different depending on the ranking. The top 40 would be rewarded with 1 upper-grade star accumulation pill, the top 20 would be rewarded with 2 upper-grade star accumulation pills, and the top 10 would be rewarded with 3 upper-grade star accumulation pills. The top 5 would be rewarded even more, divided into 5 ranks. Not only would they be rewarded with upper-grade star accumulation pills, but they would also be rewarded with upper-grade medicinal herbs that could replenish vitality. The 5th would be rewarded with 4 upper-grade star accumulation pills and 1 upper-grade medicinal herb. The 4th would be rewarded with 6 upper-grade star accumulation pills and 1 upper-grade medicinal herb. The 3rd would be rewarded with 8 upper-grade star accumulation pills and 2 upper-grade medicinal herbs. The 2nd would be rewarded with 10 upper-grade star accumulation pills and 2 upper-grade medicinal herbs. The 1st would be rewarded with 12 upper-grade star accumulation pills and 3 upper-grade medicinal herbs. The Academy's rewards were not small, but it was not easy for the students to get the rewards. There were nearly 800 students, but only the top 40 would be rewarded, which was about 20 to 1. Yixing, Wu Yuan, and Ma Bo were assigned to the 20th group. In order to prevent the strong from meeting each other in advance, the academy had assigned the strongest 20 students to different groups. Therefore, in each group, there was a seated student. Among them, 15 were level 7 martial Dao masters, and 5 were peak level 6 martial artists. Although Yixing was in the limelight in the ordinary class, he hadn't attended classes for a month. He had been cleaning the library and had been keeping a low profile. The fame he had gained on the first day of school had naturally faded, and he wasn't among the 20 seated students. The seed student in the 20th group was Feng Yuanming, a student of the gifted class. It was unknown whether Yixing's luck was good or bad. His first match in Group 20 was against Feng Yuanming. Or rather, it should be said that Feng Yuanming's luck was bad. As a seated student, he was afraid that his face would be swollen in the first battle. Go, Yixing! When Yixing went on stage, he heard Wei Qingxuan's voice. There were too many people just now, so Yixing did not notice that Wei Qingxian had also come. Yixing winked at Wei Qingxian and smiled confidently. Then, he looked around. Wei Qingxian had already been promoted to the advanced genius class. Since she was here, there should be other advanced class students as well. Yixing felt that Xiong Qisheng should also be here. As Yixing expected, he quickly discovered Xiong Qisheng's figure. The latter was like a poisonous snake, coldly staring at him from afar. Seeing Yixing's gaze, Xiong Qisheng's eyes revealed a cruel smile. Intuition told Yixing that the other party did not have good intentions. Perhaps, in this assessment, he would meet an opponent specially ordered by Xiong Qisheng. Yixing secretly paid attention. Humph. A cold snort came from the front. Feng Yuanming went on stage. Seeing that Yixing did not even look at him, his heart was filled with anger. Feng Yuanming's voice was filled with disdain. I didn't expect to meet a 2-star trash like you in the first round. If you know what's good for you, admit defeat. Otherwise, this daddy will slap you to death. Yixing had just gone to look for Xiong Qisheng. He did not deliberately look down on the other party, but the other party's words had angered Yixing. Yixing smiled, 1 slap. Feng Yuanming's face carried an arrogant smile, 1 slap. Yixing nodded, okay, 1 slap. Yixing's tone made Feng Yuanming feel a little strange. It sounded like Yixing wanted to slap him. Feng Yuanming still did not understand, but the deacon presiding over the battle had already said, you can begin. Don't be long-winded. As soon as the deacon's voice fell, Yixing's figure flashed and disappeared. An afterimage flashed past and Yixing appeared in front of Feng Yuanming. Yixing's current 7-star steps had truly been cultivated to perfection. With the addition of a trace of wind force, it was unbelievably fast. Feng Yuanming only felt a blur in front of his eyes. He just understood that Yixing's tone just now was indeed about to slap him. Yixing had already arrived in front of him and raised his arm to slap him. Slap! Feng Yuanming had clearly pushed his speed to the limit and wanted to dodge backwards. However, with a crisp sound, he felt a sharp pain on his face and his mind instantly went blank. Blood splattered everywhere and broken teeth flew everywhere. As Feng Yuanming spat out blood and broken teeth, he was slapped out of the arena by Yixing. Yixing had easily defeated Zhou Jianhong, who was at the peak of 6th stage, when his cultivation was at the peak of 5th stage. Now that Yixing's cultivation was at the mid-stage of 6th stage, his martial arts attainments had increased by a large margin. Even though Feng Yuanming's strength was higher than Zhou Jianhong's, in the hands of Yixing, he was just a character who was sent flying with a slap. The surrounding martial artists who were watching were basically students who had been assigned to 20 groups for the competition. They all gasped and looked at Yixing with incomparable fear and reverence. The deacon presiding over the battle also looked at Yixing in surprise. A month ago, he had watched Yixing and Zhou Jianhong's duel. Now, it seemed that Yixing's strength had increased by a lot. In this month, Yixing had not attended classes and had been punished to clean the library. However, his strength had increased so quickly. It was really strange. The deacon of Group 20 restrained the surprise in his heart and said, Yixing wins. Next match, Yixing against Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng was a student of the ordinary class, and his cultivation was at the mid-stage of 6th stage. He immediately admitted defeat. Even the seated students of Group 20 had been sent flying with a slap by Yixing. Zhao Feng did not dare to make a move. Of course, he admitted defeat to avoid being sent flying with a slap by Yixing. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. After that, Yixing's opponents all chose to admit defeat in every battle, no matter if it was a student of the ordinary class or a student of the genius class. In the group stages, other than the first match against Feng Yuanming, Yixing also made a move. After that, his opponents all admitted defeat. He easily obtained first place in Group 20 and advanced to the second elimination round. As for the second place in Group 20, it was taken by Feng Yuanming. Since the academy had chosen him as a seated student of Group 20, his strength was indeed not weak. Even if there was a student in Group 20 who was also at the peak of 6th stage, he was still defeated by Feng Yuanming. It was a pity that Feng Yuanming met Yixing, this abnormal battle strength that defied the heavens. Moreover, he had a foul mouth and angered Yixing. Otherwise, he should have been very impressive in the group stages. However, because he had been slapped by Yixing in the first battle, even if Feng Yuanming won all his subsequent battles, he could not feel happy in his heart. Others looked at him as if they were looking at a joke and did not have the slightest bit of respect. Feng Yuanming hated Yixing so much in his heart that his teeth itched, but he did not dare to show it on the surface. Yixing's slap was not light, and it caused his heart to tremble even now. Because there were 20 groups competing at the same time, the group stages did not last for too long. The first and second place of each group had all come out. Those 15 7th stage masters had all advanced as the first place of their group. The other 4 first places of the group were all at the peak of 6th stage. Only Yixing's cultivation was at the middle of 6th stage. Not only was his cultivation the lowest in the group first place, even the second place of the other 20 groups had the lowest cultivation at the peak of 6th stage, much higher than him. After the first stage of the competition ended, there was a break for a while. The previous division of the square into 20 areas was no longer suitable for the elimination rounds. During the break, the academy redivided the square into 5 areas. There would be 5 elimination rounds at the same time. There would be 20 battles for the advancement of 40 to 20, and there would be a total of 4 rounds. There would be 10 battles for the advancement of 20 to 10, and there would be a total of 2 rounds. During the break, Yixing was naturally together with Wei Qingxian. Yixing, your strength has increased by a lot. The gap between us seems to have widened. Wei Qingxian exclaimed. Hee. Your destiny is so high. If I don't work harder, I'll be left behind by you very soon. Yixing smiled faintly. Yixing's super brain had already scanned Wei Qingxuan's cultivation. She was only a hair's breadth away from the late stage of 6th stage. It was likely that she would break through in the next few days. Wei Qingxian was specially groomed by the Purple Mountain Academy and enjoyed special treatment. Coupled with her high fate, her cultivation would definitely increase like a rocket. Even though Yixing felt that his cultivation was increasing very quickly, compared to Wei Qingxian, it was still slightly inferior. Wei Qingxian smiled embarrassedly. Her fate had surpassed 9 stars. She did not want to hide it from Yixing, but Zishanho had warned her not to reveal her fate to anyone, so she endured it and did not say anything. Therefore, although Wei Qingxian was amazed by Yixing's progress, she was also very happy. She and Yixing had an unspoken agreement to become stronger together. If Yixing fell behind, she would become a peak martial saint in the future. If the gap between them was too big, it would be difficult for them to get along as well as they were now. The break time quickly passed and the square was divided into 5 sections by the academy. When Yixing went up to draw the lots, Wei Qingxian waved her delicate fist and said, Yixing, I believe in you. You will definitely get first place. Yixing nodded slightly with a confident smile. A trash of the 6th stage wants to get first place, TSK. At this time, a student of the 7th stage of the martial path heard it and said with disdain, and a trash of a 2-star fate. He, if he meets me, Jiang Wenlong, I will beat the shit out of him. Yixing narrowed his eyes and a cold light flashed in them. He had already noticed Jiang Wenlong. He was with Xiong Qisheng just now. Moreover, other than Jiang Wenlong, there were 4 other students of the 7th stage of the genius class. Xiong Qisheng had already looked for them. Chapter 99. Among the 15 freshmen in the 7th stage of the martial Dao, at least 5 of them were in the same group as Xiong Qisheng or had an agreement with him. They were all targets that Yixing was wary of. Hanging out with Xiong Qisheng was definitely not a good thing for him. At present, Jiang Wenlong's attitude proved this point. Yixing's cold eyes swept over Jiang Wenlong and said, Jiang Wenlong, right? If we meet later, whoever admits defeat will be a bastard. Let's see who will beat the shit out of who. Jiang Wenlong's eyes flashed a sharp aura and he laughed, well, whoever admits defeat will be a bastard. Hee. Trash, you wait, I will beat you until you piss your pants, hee. The nearby students saw Yixing and Jiang Wenlong fighting. Some looked amazed, some sneered. Although they all thought that Yixing's strength was very strong, they didn't think that Yixing could compete with a martial Dao master. The gap between the 7th stage of the martial Dao and the 6th stage of the martial Dao was not just a little bit, but a gap that was difficult to cross. In the first round of the knockout, Yixing and Jiang Wenlong couldn't meet because the rule of drawing lots was that the first in the group would be the second in the group. Yixing and Jiang Wenlong were the first in the group to advance, so they couldn't meet in this round. The names of the second in the group were placed in a wooden box and the first in the group to advance were drawn by the first in the group. When Yixing caught a paper ball and opened it, a strange smile appeared on his face. The name on the paper was Feng Yuanming. It seemed that he and Feng Yuanming had some ill-fated relationship. Not only were they both in the 20th group, but he also had a 1 in 20 chance of being picked by Yixing. When Feng Yuanming found out that his first opponent was Yixing, his face immediately turned bitter. His right cheek was still a little swollen, and now he felt a burning pain. He didn't dare to fight with Yixing again. At this time, Feng Yuanming was in awe of Yixing. Before Yixing could open his mouth, he quickly admitted defeat. Yixing also advanced to the top 20 without making a move. As for the first place in the other groups, none of the 15 7th-tier grandmasters could shake them. As for the other 4 peak 6th-tier grandmasters, one of them was defeated by a 6th-tier grandmaster who had advanced to the second place in the other groups and was eliminated. The top 20 were determined. 15 7th-tier grandmasters, 3 peak 6th-tier grandmasters, 1 peak 6th-tier grandmasters, and 1 intermediate 6th-tier grandmasters. The reward for the 21st to the 40th place was the same, an upper-grade accumulating star pill, so the eliminated students didn't have to compete anymore and directly started the next round. All the eliminated students were excited. They were eliminated and naturally became spectators. The second round of the knockout was the competition between the top 20 and the top 10. In this round, there would be a showdown between martial Dao masters, and some martial Dao masters would be eliminated. The intensity of the battle was much more wonderful and intense than before. Naturally, it was exciting. Yixing, do you dare to be in the same group with me in this round? The academy hadn't arranged the list yet, and the drawing of lots hadn't started yet. Jiang Wenlong shouted and directly called out Yixing. Yixing just planned to deal with Jiang Wenlong when he met him. He didn't expect that the other party was even more anxious than him and pointed out that he wanted to fight with him in this round. However, Yixing didn't have the slightest fear and said, why not? Jiang Wenlong smiled and said to the deacon who presided over the competition, Deacon, since we are both willing, let's arrange a showdown for this round. Since both parties were willing, the deacon naturally wouldn't interfere and nodded, okay. Hee. Jiang Wenlong's face revealed a ferocious smile as he stared at Yixing fiercely, like a hound staring at its prey. Jiang Wenlong, don't be careless and lose the face of us martial Dao masters. You were defeated by a 2-star Heaven's Mandate trash. Beside Jiang Wenlong, a 16-year-old freshman coldly snorted. He was also a martial Dao master. Moreover, he was also the one who was looked for by Xiong Qisheng. How can I be defeated by this trash? At most 3 moves and I'll beat him until he pisses his pants. Bian Chusheng, this trash doesn't need you to teach him a lesson. Jiang Wenlong's face was filled with arrogance as he disdainfully glanced at Yixing and said. That's for the best, but, hee. Bian Chusheng sneered and said, Jiang Wenlong, if you lose, I'll take revenge for you. Pay. Impossible. The other 18 people's names were quickly determined. The 9 students who broke through to the 7th stage of the martial Dao first would draw lots for the other 9. There would be 5 pairs of 7 Dao masters. This was the highlight of this round. The second round of the elimination round had a total of 10 battles. There were only 5 arenas, so it would be divided into 2 rounds. Yixing and Jiang Wenlong's battle would take place in the easternmost arena of the first round. Among the 5 battles, 3 of them were between martial Dao masters, which attracted most of the audience's attention. Not many people were watching the battle between Yixing and Jiang Wenlong. Come on, see how I'll beat you until you piss your pants, hee. Jiang Wenlong sneered. His weapon was a long spear. The tip of the spear was shining with a cold light. It was a high-grade weapon. As the saying goes, a month with a stick and a year with a saber, a lifetime with a spear. Spear techniques were the most difficult to master, but once mastered, the power was amazing. Let's begin. The deacon on the side said. Die. When the deacon said, begin, Jiang Wenlong's temperament changed instantly. His eyes widened, and his momentum was amazing. He shouted loudly. Whoosh! The long spear pierced forward. The spear was dazzling, and it was like a straight white chain bursting out. Whoosh! There was no wind and waves in the air. The air within a radius of 10 feet was stirred up by Jiang Wenlong's piercing, which almost caused the wind. It seemed that Jiang Wenlong had worked hard on his spear. His spear technique was very good. Ordinary level 6 martial artists, even if their cultivation was at the peak of level 6, couldn't block his spear. However, this spear was not a big threat to Yixing. Yixing had already comprehended a trace of wind. Now that Jiang Wenlong's piercing caused the wind to move, Yixing felt the wind. It was as if there were eyes in all directions. How could he be pierced by the latter? Yixing stepped on the Big Dipper, and his body moved with the wind. In an instant, he floated up. Whether it was Jiang Wenlong or the surrounding audience, they all felt dazzled. When they looked again, Yixing was already in midair and stepped on the spearhead. How fast was Jiang Wenlong's spear? Yixing was actually able to accurately step on the spearhead at this critical moment. This caused everyone's expressions to change in shock. If he had stepped a little faster and stepped on the front of the spearhead, then this spear would have pierced a big hole in his foot. Unfortunately, in Yixing's dictionary, there were no ifs. Since he dared to step on it, it was naturally foolproof. Yixing's body looked light, but when he stepped on the spearhead, it was extremely heavy. Immediately, the spearhead sank down and fell to the ground. Too slow. Yixing's voice sounded like a slap to Jiang Wenlong's face. While speaking, Yixing moved his feet and walked quickly along the spear's shaft toward Jiang Wenlong. Jiang Wenlong's expression was shocked, and his body quickly retreated. He instantly withdrew his spear and swept it across his waist, total annihilation. The spear swept across like a crescent moon, and in an instant, it shot forward with a terrifying momentum. The air seemed to be cut in half by the spear. Yixing was in the air, and fell to the ground like 1,000 jin. His body leaned back, and the spear cut above his stomach, but it missed again. Too slow. Yixing still gave the same evaluation. You're courting death. Feeling the sarcasm in Yixing's words, Jiang Wenlong was furious, and angrily said, strength breaking 1,000 mountains. Jiang Wenlong's body jumped up, and with both hands holding the spear, it was as if he was holding a dragon, and fiercely smashed it to the ground. The spearhead drew a sharp spear light, and shot out, cutting everything in front of it in half, and slashing toward Yixing. This spear had an indomitable momentum, and when the spearhead slashed down, it was enough to cut through everything. Unfortunately, the spear's attack was strong, but its transformation was slow. When the spear fell to the ground, Yixing had already disappeared. The spearhead split a large piece of the solid floor, but it did not touch the corner of Yixing's clothes. Too slow. Yixing's voice rang out, and the content was the same. However, when Jiang Wenlong heard it this time, he did not feel the slightest bit of anger. He only felt his hair stand on end, and his heart was greatly shocked. Yixing's voice came from behind him, so close that it sounded like it was ringing in his ear. Jiang Wenlong's move, strength breaking thousand mountains, was too fierce, and at this moment, he was unable to withdraw his spear and counterattack. Without waiting for Jiang Wenlong to dodge, he felt a pain in the back of his head, and Yixing's fist had already landed. With a heavy blow to the head, Jiang Wenlong was suddenly stunned. He only felt a buzzing sound in his head, and his body fell forward. After all, Jiang Wenlong was a LV7 martial Dao master, and his internal strength protected his body, so he was not really stunned by Yixing's attack. He rushed forward a few steps, felt the wind behind his head, and immediately turned his body. The spear was like a dragon, sweeping in an instant. Still too slow. Yixing's voice rang out again, and Jiang Wenlong's hair stood on end. The voice was right in front of him. However, Jiang Wenlong did not see Yixing's body, but only saw a sky full of fist shadows. High-grade martial arts technique, Thousand Shadow Fist. Bang bang bang! Not only was Jiang Wenlong punched in the chest, the arm holding the spear was also hit hard, and the long spear in his hand was knocked out of his hand. Even the weapon was knocked out of his hand. Jiang Wenlong was really frightened at this moment, and he used his body movement to the limit to retreat. However, Yixing's speed was faster than him. As soon as the Thousand Shadow Fist came out, there were many fist shadows, and Jiang Wenlong's nose and face were swollen. Even if Jiang Wenlong was a LV7 martial Dao master, he could not withstand several blows and was directly knocked to the ground by Yixing. His back hit the ground heavily, and the shock made Jiang Wenlong's qi and blood surged. There was a sharp pain in his chest, and blood gushed out of his mouth. Stage of martial arts, wind-chasing kick. Yixing's leg was like the wind, and as fast as lightning. His body turned over, and his leg smashed down like an iron spear. Bang! Jiang Wenlong was hit by Yixing's leg, and his stomach was hit hard. Not only did he suffer serious internal injuries, but he was also beaten to incontinence in an instant, and feces and urine came out. As the only girl among the three, Yu Cixue won the admiration of countless male students and became the most popular student. As for the winner in the West Arena, Ling Fengjue, his opponent was only at the peak of the 6th stage. This was a natural result and was ignored by most of the students. The last 5 matches of the second round of the elimination round soon began. In this round, there were 2 pairs of martial Dao masters, which attracted the attention of the audience. After a fierce battle, the victors of the 2 martial Dao masters were finally decided. One was Bian Chusheng, and the other was Xiao Xingyang. As for the other 3 battles, the opponents of the martial Dao masters were all 6th-level martial artists. These 6th-level martial artists were quite outstanding in the same realm, but they were far inferior in front of the 7th-level masters. Naturally, the 3 martial Dao masters won. At the end of the second round, the top 10 freshman assessment were decided. They were Jing Feiqian, Yu Cixue, Li Yanzhao, Bian Chusheng, Xiao Xingyang, Ling Fengjue, Nan Xinruo, Yu Hua, Yang Ping, and Yixing. Among the top 10, there were 9 martial Dao masters, and only Yixing was a 6th-level martial artist. However, no one had any objection to this. Yixing entered the top 10 because of his strength. At least half of the martial Dao masters in the top 10 were very afraid of Yixing. However, Yixing was not the most popular among the top 10. Jing Feitian, Yu Xixue, Li Yanzhao, Bian Chusheng, and Zhao Xinyang, the 5 7th-level masters who had defeated masters of the same realm, were the real heroes and the most popular candidates for the top 5. After all, Yixing's cultivation was his weakness in front of the 7th-level masters. Naturally, the strength of the 5 7th-level masters, including Jing Feitian, was more convincing, and Yixing was just more surprising. The assessment entered the 3rd round of the elimination round, and 5 out of 10 would advance. In this round, the 5 people who had defeated masters of the same realm would draw lots. Their targets were Ling Fengjue, Nan Xinruo, Yu Hua, Yang Ping, and Yixing. Li Yanzhao, Bian Chusheng, Ling Fengjue, and Yu Hua had all come into contact with Xiong Qisheng, and their gazes towards Yixing were very unfriendly. However, in this round, they did not directly challenge Yixing like Jiang Wenlong did. Yixing was only a 6th-level martial Dao master. A 7th-level master challenging a 6th-level martial artist was a disgrace. It would be good if he won, but if he lost, it would be really embarrassing. Jiang Wenlong had now become a joke. With this lesson in mind, the other 4 naturally would not take the initiative to challenge Yixing. In any case, as long as Yixing advanced, there would always be a chance to deal with Yixing. After the drawing of lots, the names of the 3rd round were confirmed. Jing Feitian against Ling Fengjue, Yu Xixue against Nan Xinruo, Li Yanzhao against Yu Hua, Bian Chusheng against Yang Ping, and Zhao Xinyang against Yixing. When the battle venues were confirmed, most of the students ran to the east and west. Very few went to the other 3 venues. The eastern venue was Yu Xixue against Nan Xinruo. Among the top 10, only the 2 of them were women. Moreover, they were both beautiful and had high popularity. Zhao Xinyang and Yixing were on the west side of the arena. There was no doubt that compared to the duel between martial Dao masters, Yixing, a LV6 martial artist, was the most interesting duel among the students. If it weren't for the 2 beauties, Yu Xixue and Nan Xinruo, who had attracted a lot of spectators, more than 80% of the students would have run to the western venue. Western venue. Yixing and Zhao Xinyang faced off. "I'm not that trash, Jiang Wenlong." Zhao Xinyang glared at Yixing. As an 8-star Destiny Realm genius, Zhao Xinyang was naturally one of the people who mocked Yixing. At that time, he never expected that a 2-star Destiny Realm that he regarded as trash would become his opponent in the assessment. Although Yixing defeated Jiang Wenlong, Zhao Xinyang was still confident. In the previous round, he also defeated a 7th-level martial Dao master. He didn't think that he was weaker than Yixing naturally. Zhao Xinyang didn't dare to look down on Yixing like before. He already regarded Yixing as an opponent on the same level. Yixing's figure was like a mountain. He faintly smiled. "There's no difference between the 2 of you." Zhao Xinyang was furious. Don't think that you can look down on other martial Dao masters just because you defeated Jiang Wenlong. I will let you understand how terrifying a martial Dao master is." Yixing's smile didn't change. "I'll be waiting." Around the venue, the students were also discussing. Student A, who do you think will win? Student B, I think it should be Zhao Xinyang. He also defeated a 7th-level martial Dao master in the previous round. Student C, N, Yixing is already very heaven-defying to be able to rush into the top 10. This is also because of his good luck. Jiang Wenlong seems to be the last to break through to the 7th level. If he met another 7th-level martial Dao master in the previous round, he might not have won. Student D, I think we should ask how long Yixing can last against Zhao Xinyang. Zhao Xinyang was one of the popular candidates for the top 5. The students were very confident in him. On the contrary, they had very little confidence in Yixing. Most of them thought that Yixing would lose this battle. It was just a matter of how long he could last against Zhao Xinyang. The surrounding discussions made Zhao Xinyang extremely proud, and he smiled mischievously. On the other hand, Yixing's figure was still tall and straight, and he was like a mountain that stood firmly in the abyss. The words of the others didn't affect him in the slightest. He wouldn't refute these words. He would only use facts to prove it. Let's start. The deacon on the side ordered. Zhao Xinyang chuckled, and the surrounding temperature suddenly rose. His two palms turned crimson red, as if they were about to burn. Red flame palm. It was a high-grade martial art technique with fire attribute internal force. Its power was amazing. Aren't you fast? Hee hee. Let's see which is faster, your speed or my palm print. Zhao Xinyang sneered. He channeled his internal force and the red color of his palms became more obvious. He slammed his palm toward Yixing. The wind from the palm whistled and the heat wave was like a tide. A red palm print was instantly launched. The palm print wasn't as sharp as the sword qi, but its power was definitely stronger. It was very powerful. Yixing stepped on the Big Dipper and his body was like a phantom. He dodged the palm print attack in an instant. However, before Yixing could counterattack, Zhao Xinyang shouted again, 5 chain seals. Bang 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 bang. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Xinyang launched 5 consecutive palm prints. 5 palm prints were launched at the same time. It was difficult to tell which one was first as they attacked Yixing. The 5 palm prints blocked all of Yixing's escape routes. Yixing's eyes narrowed. His opponent's palm technique restrained his movement technique. However, Yixing's expression was as usual. The corner of his mouth curled up. He relied on more than just his movement technique. Boom! Yixing punched out. In an instant, the roar of a tiger could be heard. An explosive aura instantly surged in all directions like a tide. Unleashing the tiger roar, Yixing advanced courageously like a ferocious tiger descending the mountain, rushing towards Zhao Xinyang. Bang! The red flame palm print was smashed by Yixing's punch. In the blink of an eye, he rushed to Zhao Xinyang. Seeing that Yixing wanted to fight him head-on, Zhao Xinyang was not surprised. His opponent was only at the 6th level of cultivation. In terms of internal force, he was far superior. In a head-on fight, he could heavily injure his opponent in less than 3 moves. Red flame palm. Roaring tiger fist. In an instant, the 2 fists and palms collided. With a loud boom, there was an earth-shattering explosion. The surrounding spectators all widened their eyes in shock. They stared intently at the 2 people in the battle, afraid that they would miss a single moment. After the explosion, Zhao Xinyang's body shook. He immediately took a step back and his expression changed. Take another punch. Yixing was invincible. His black hair flew in the wind. He was as powerful as a tiger. He took a step forward and punched out again. The roar of a tiger could be heard in the forest. This is impossible. At this moment, many students exclaimed in shock. In the head-on collision between Yixing and Zhao Xinyang, it was Zhao Xinyang who was repelled. This was unbelievable. Chapter 101. The fist and palm collided for the second time. Zhao Xinyang's expression changed again. He took 3 steps back and a trickle of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Compared to the shock in Zhao Xinyang's eyes, Yixing's eyes were full of confidence and high spirits. Compared to defeating his opponent with mysterious movements, he preferred the most direct way to crush his opponent. In a head-on collision, every punch would land on flesh and blood would be spilled. This was the only way to stimulate Yixing's boiling blood. This was the only way to release the energy in his body. This was the only way to create the most comfortable feeling and elevate his spirit. Yixing's roaring tiger fist had already reached the transcendent state and had reached the acme of perfection. What did it mean to reach perfection? It was only when one used the spirit that it could be considered to have reached perfection. There were different levels in the level of perfection. Yixing's roaring tiger fist could only be considered to have just reached the level of perfection. It was at the edge of the level of perfection. True perfection was even more mysterious and unfathomable. It was the highest level of the transformative stage. At this moment, Yixing's blood was boiling and his spirit was elevated. In a flash, his roaring tiger fist was even more profound and unpredictable. It had reached the most mysterious level. His aura was almost connected to the heaven and earth. Yixing only felt that he had touched a forbidden level. His body was one with the heaven and earth. The power in his body was endless. Take another punch. Yixing shouted. His voice was like a tiger's roar. It was so powerful that it shook the surroundings. The students' hearts sank when they heard it. It was as if they were being suppressed by an invisible force. Zhao Xinyang's eyes were suddenly filled with fear. At this moment, Yixing's figure was no longer in his eyes. Instead, he saw an incomparably huge tiger, roaring at him and pouncing on him. What was spirit? Spirit was the aura, the suppression of the mind. Because Yixing's punch was only aimed at Zhao Xinyang, only Zhao Xinyang could feel the spirit of Yixing's punch. As for the other students, they felt that Yixing's punch was not much different from the previous two. God was a form of mental suppression. Therefore, the tiger in Zhao Xinyang's eyes was infinitely huge, almost as tall as the sky, occupying the whole world. Seeing such a huge tiger pouncing over, Zhao Xinyang was so scared that he almost peed his pants. There was only fear left in his heart, and he even forgot to use the scarlet flame palm. He just instinctively raised his hands to block. Bang! With a deep sound, Zhao Xinyang's body was like a cannonball as he was sent flying by Yixing's punch. He was blasted dozens of feet away and was directly blasted out of the battlefield. The spectating students quickly dodged, and Zhao Xinyang fell to the ground. His arms were dripping with blood, and he spat out blood. He was seriously injured. Previously, when Zhao Xinyang was at a disadvantage, the students were already shocked and exclaimed, "Impossible." However, just as they exclaimed, "Impossible," Yixing gave them an even greater shock. He actually sent Zhao Xinyang flying with a punch. This simply made all the students dumbfounded. Except for the students who dodged Zhao Xinyang's body, the rest were all dumbfounded. They could not believe the scene just now. After Yixing sent Zhao Xinyang flying, he closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the ground. All the sounds around him quieted down, and his heart was as still as water. Yixing had coincidentally reached the realm of spirit and transformation with that punch just now. He had a sudden epiphany in his heart. In the process of epiphany, one could accidentally feel a profound understanding and quickly turn it into something one truly understood. For martial artists, epiphany was an opportunity that could only be encountered by chance. The majority of martial artists would not have the chance to experience it even once in their lifetime. After a full breath, the deacon on the side recovered from his shock and announced the result: Yixing wins and advances to the top 5. The deacon's words caused all the martial artists to recover from their dumbfounded state. In an instant, there was an endless stream of surprised discussions. See, Yixing actually defeated Zhao Xinyang? Why didn't Zhao Xinyang resist just now? He only knew how to raise his hand to block. Otherwise, how could he be defeated so miserably by Yixing's punch? A student of the ordinary class, and a 2-star heaven's mandate, with a cultivation of the 6th stage of the martial path, actually defeated 2 7th-stage grandmasters in a row and advanced to the top 5. Who can tell me, am I dreaming right now? Or am I hallucinating? Top 5, TSK. Even if the worst gets 5th place, there will be 4 upper-grade star accumulating pills and 1 upper-grade medicinal herb as a reward. It's really enviable. Sigh. The other 4 battles are not over yet, and he has already defeated Zhao Xinyang so quickly. I'm afraid his strength is considered to be in the top 5. His final ranking is probably not just 5th. Do you think he will take 1st place? 1st place? See. Isn't this too exaggerated? What if he takes 1st place? That's too ridiculous. There are 15 martial Dao masters in the genius class. It's already a great shame for him to enter the top 5. If he takes first place, the genius class will not be called the genius class, it will be called the trash class. That's right. The academy specially divided 1 genius class and 10 ordinary classes. Isn't it to highlight the genius class and focus on cultivating geniuses? If the first place is taken by the ordinary class, then it's really blind. Why is Yi Xing sitting there all the time? The battle between him and Zhao Xingyang was not long, so he shouldn't have consumed too much energy. How could he have adjusted his internal breath? Yes, it's really strange. Is he cultivating? It won't be long before the top 5 assessment. What's the use of this time to cultivate? Oh. Why are you shouting? Do you feel that there's a strange aura on Yi Xing? It feels very mysterious and profound. Is there? It seems that there really is. Why do I feel like I'm looking at a martial Dao Grand Master instead of a LV6 martial artist when I look at him? I understand. He is having an epiphany. The students discussed in surprise and finally discovered Yi Xing's abnormality. Moreover, some students thought of an epiphany and almost screamed out in surprise. Epiphany was simply a legend to the majority of martial artists. It was difficult to encounter one in their lifetime. However, any martial artist knew that epiphany was extremely beneficial to martial artists. If they could encounter it, it would be a great opportunity. How is this possible? He's only a LV6 martial artist. How can he reach the state of epiphany? Some students exclaimed in disbelief. Epiphany, since it had the word enlightenment, naturally had something to do with the martial artist's comprehension. Generally speaking, the higher a martial artist's attainment in martial arts, the easier it was for them to have an epiphany. The higher their attainment in martial arts, the higher their cultivation, and it was directly proportional. Therefore, when there were records of epiphany, the person was either a martial sage or a LV9 martial artist. Even LV8 martial artists were rare. Yi Xing was only a LV6 martial artist. Although his current state was very similar to the legendary epiphany, some students still found it hard to believe. When some students voiced their doubts, many others chimed in, expressing that it was impossible. However, the deacon in charge of the venue said with certainty, he has indeed entered the state of epiphany. This deacon was a LV8 martial artist. He was a LV8 martial artist. His vision was much higher than these new students, so his words were naturally credible. He's really in the state of epiphany. I heard that entering the state of epiphany will bring great benefits. Whether it's cultivation or strength, it will increase rapidly. He's already defeated Zhao Xingyang. If his strength increases again in the state of epiphany, won't he be first in this assessment? The students cried out in surprise once again. Yi Xing. At this moment, a sudden roar shook the sky. A figure suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xing. A surging aura erupted, suppressing Yi Xing puff. Yi Xing was interrupted in the process of epiphany, and he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. If it had been a normal discussion, no matter how loud it was, Yi Xing would have calmed himself down and ignored it in the state of epiphany. However, this roar was like a clap of thunder. Moreover, it was called his name, and it carried a shocking aura that suppressed him. Naturally, it forcibly pulled him out of the state of epiphany. How difficult was it to enter the state of epiphany? Interrupting one's epiphany was equivalent to cutting off one's opportunity. This could lead to a life and death battle. Flames of anger burned in Yi Xing's eyes. Just a little bit more, and he would have completely comprehended. Not only the roaring tiger fist, but many other martial arts techniques would have reached the true state of spirit. However, such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity was interrupted at the last moment. This caused his inner breath to go berserk, his chi and blood to flow backward, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. If it were not for his super brain's powerful ability that allowed him to remain clear-headed at such a critical moment and instantly control the berserk inner breath and reverse chi and blood in his body, the moment his epiphany was interrupted, he would have almost gone mad and been severely injured. The students who were discussing in shock immediately quieted down. They looked at Xiong Qixing in front of Yixing in shock. They wondered, what kind of undying hatred is there between the two of them? Otherwise, why would Xiong Qixing do such a terrible thing to Yixing? Xiong Qixing. You are seeking death. Yixing stood up. His eyes were filled with terrifying murderous intent as he stared at Xiong Qixing and said word by word. Xiong Qixing sneered and said, Yixing, you should know the rules in front of your seniors. He. I'm here to inform you that you will be the first to fight against Bian Chusheng for the top 5. Yixing said coldly, the arrangement will be decided by the school's deacons. It's not up to a student like you to interfere. You're clearly trying to interrupt my epiphany. Xiong Qixing said in shock, so you're in the middle of an epiphany? He. Don't joke around. How can you enter the state of epiphany? I'm just here to inform you. I saw that you seemed to be sleeping with your eyes closed, so I spoke a little louder. He. I'm so sorry. Yixing snorted and said, go ahead and pretend. I'll make you pay for it very soon. As he spoke, Yixing's aura suddenly exploded. He released his cultivation and it was already at the late stage of LV6. Chapter 102. Although Yixing's epiphany had been interrupted by Xiong Qixing, the super brain's quick reaction had stopped the chaos in his body and blood, so he wasn't affected too much. In fact, Yixing had benefited greatly from the epiphany. Not only had his martial arts skills improved a lot, but his cultivation had also skyrocketed and reached the late stage of the 6th rank. The only pity was that his martial arts had almost reached the final juncture in the epiphany. If he had completed it, not only would his cultivation be promoted to a higher realm, but he could also enter the state where he could blow Zhao Xingyang away with one punch at any time. Yixing's spirit was so powerful that it seemed to occupy the entire world in Zhao Xingyang's eyes. Zhao Xingyang was scared out of his wits and didn't dare to fight back. He only cupped his fists and blocked the attack. If every punch could be so powerful, any martial Dao master would be nothing in front of Yixing. They would be like ants. Therefore, even though Yixing had benefited greatly from the epiphany, he was still very angry. Seeing that Yixing's cultivation had reached the late stage of the 6th rank, Xiong Qixing's face darkened. It seemed that he had been too slow in interrupting Yixing's epiphany. Yixing had already benefited greatly from the epiphany. You'll make me pay the price soon. How soon? Now. Xiong Qixing's eyes were sharp and his aura was sharp as he said coldly. Seeing that Yixing's cultivation had increased so quickly, Xiong Qixing wasn't confident about the battle anymore. Yixing had reached the late stage of the 6th rank from the peak of the 5th rank in just 1 month. What would happen in 2 months? Even though Xiong Qixing was confident that he could reach the 8th rank in 2 months, Yixing's cultivation and strength had increased too much. Naturally, he wasn't confident. Yixing was only a 2-star Heavenly Fate Realm cultivator. Logically speaking, this kind of trash would be at the bottom of the list even in the small towns under Azure Sky City. However, Xiong Qixing was aware of Yixing's experience. Before the age of 16, he was a nobody, but after that, he had soared into the sky in just a few months. Not only did he have a great reputation in the celestial Azure City, surpassing one genius after another, he even showed signs of rising rapidly in the Purple Mountain Institute, where geniuses gathered. This made Xiong Qixing fearful of Yixing's future. He felt that the more time passed, the more mature Yixing would become. Therefore, Xiong Qixing couldn't wait for the battle between him and Yixing to start 2 months later. Xiong Qixing had interrupted Yixing's epiphany. This was simply touching Yixing's reverse scale. Ever since he was eliminated to the ordinary class, Yixing's heart had been burning with rage. Now, this rage was even more intense. Yixing also didn't want to wait another 2 months to deal with Xiong Qisheng. He also wanted to do it as soon as possible. The earlier he dealt with Xiong Qisheng, the better Yixing would feel. I'll deal with you after the test. Yixing's gaze was as sharp as a sword as he stared at Xiong Qisheng. If he hadn't experienced the epiphany, Yixing wouldn't have challenged Xiong Qisheng so quickly. However, the increase in his strength during the epiphany gave him confidence. Xiong Qisheng's eyes lit up. His primary purpose for interrupting Yixing's epiphany was to destroy Yixing's opportunity. However, he also thought about provoking Yixing so that Yixing wouldn't be able to hold back his anger and fight with him ahead of time. If Yixing wanted to fight with him now, it would be exactly what Xiong Qisheng wanted. Xiong Qisheng revealed a cruel smile. Hee, very good. I'll wait for you. No way. Yixing actually wants to fight with Xiong Qisheng after the test. This is too reckless. Xiong Qisheng is a student of the advanced genius class. His cultivation is already at the peak of the 7th level. Arrogant, too arrogant. I don't even know if he can get first place in the test. Even if he gets first place in the test, he can only defeat a few martial Dao masters in the early 7th level. What right does he have to fight with Xiong Qisheng? He may have seen that he defeated a martial Dao master twice in a row and is a little overconfident. He thinks that he can defeat all the martial Dao masters. This is indeed arrogant. He must have been blinded by anger. It's indeed hateful that he was interrupted in the state of epiphany. However, he should know his limits. How can he be Xiong Qisheng's opponent? Isn't he asking for trouble? Yixing was actually going to compete with Xiong Qisheng, which made all the students extremely shocked, and once again they started to talk about it. At this time, the other 4 battles had already ended. Ling Fengjue defeated Jing Feiqian, Yu Xixue defeated Nan Xinruo, Li Yanzhao defeated Yu Hua, and Bian Chusheng defeated Yang Ping. Ling Fengjue, Yu Xixue, Li Yanzhao, Bian Chusheng, and Yixing were the top 5. Except for Yixing, the other 4 were naturally very strong. Xiong Qisheng felt happy and sneered in his heart. When the deacons in charge of the test gathered to decide the order of appearance of the top 5, he walked over. Deacon He, Deacon Luo, Xiong Qisheng greeted them and then said in an extremely low voice, the first battle of the top 5 will be between Yixing and Bian Chusheng. Then it will be between Yixing and Yu Xixue, Yixing and Li Yanzhao, and Yixing and Ling Fengjue consecutively. Deacon He was the deacon who had presided over the battle between Yixing and Zhao Xingyang. When he heard this, he said unhappily, how can you let someone fight 4 battles consecutively? Isn't this a tag team battle? It's very unfair to Yixing. When Deacon He saw Xiong Qisheng interrupting Yixing's epiphany, he knew that there was a huge enmity between the two of them. However, he didn't expect that in order to deal with Yixing, Xiong Qisheng would even interfere with the test. His expression was unhappy. However, Xiong Qisheng was the vice principal's disciple. Even though Deacon He was unhappy, he didn't chase Xiong Qisheng away. Furthermore, in order to protect Xiong Qisheng's face, he also lowered his voice. Xiong Qisheng chuckled, and continued in a low voice, Deacons, this is not my idea, but the idea of my teacher, Vice Principal Wang Haiqing. If Yixing, this trash from the ordinary class, were to take the first place, not only would it be a disgrace to the students of the gifted class, but it would also bring shame to the academy. Therefore, it is natural that we must prevent Yixing from taking the first place. When they heard Xiong Qisheng say that this was Vice Principal Wang Haiqing's idea, the expressions of the deacons changed. Naturally, they didn't have any objections. The school also placed great importance on this new student assessment. Vice Principal Wang Haiqing was watching from the VIP building at the side. They guessed that Xiong Qisheng wouldn't dare to pass on his master's idea. The first match of the top 5 ranking battle, Bian Chusheng vs Yixing, very quickly, a deacon announced the name list for the first match. The top 5 ranking battle would only take place in the middle of the arena. Match after match, all the spectators gathered around the middle of the arena. Yixing and Bian Chusheng walked towards the arena. the students took the initiative to make way for them. Yixing went up in the first match, and his target was Bian Chusheng. This was exactly as Xiong Qisheng had said before. In addition, before the deacon announced the name list, Xiong Qisheng had contacted several deacons. This made Yixing understand that Xiong Qisheng must have played some tricks in the following battle. However, Yixing was not afraid at all. In the face of absolute strength, any method was useless. If Yixing couldn't even deal with Bian Chusheng and the other 3 martial Dao masters in the early stage of level 7, then he would be courting death if he still wanted to settle his grudge with Xiong Qisheng after the assessment. This was obviously impossible. Hee. Bian Chusheng had a cold smile on his face. Yixing, you are really unexpected. Not only was Jiang Wenlong defeated by you, even Zhao Xingyang was mysteriously defeated by you. However, you are not so lucky to have met me. Lucky? Bian Chusheng thought that he was lucky to have advanced to the top 5. Yixing showed a smile on his face. It was good to be confident, but it was stupid to blindly think highly of oneself and look down on others. What are you laughing at? Bian Chusheng felt the sarcasm in Yixing's smile and said angrily. I am laughing at you for being an idiot, Yixing said lightly. Although Bian Chusheng had never heard of the word idiot, he roughly understood the meaning. There were 2 words in the word idiot. Wasn't it used to describe a fool? Bian Chusheng's face was full of anger. He glared fiercely at Yixing and then said to Deacon Luo, "Can we start?" "Let's start." Deacon Luo nodded. "I will let you know who is the real idiot," Bian Chusheng said coldly. In an instant, the surrounding temperature dropped. Bian Chusheng's palm was covered with a layer of white frost. No wonder Bian Chusheng was so confident. It turned out that he was the same as Zhao Xingyang. He had also cultivated his internal strength into an attribute. Moreover, his ice internal strength was more vigorous than Zhao Xingyang's raging flame internal strength. Internal strength with an attribute was cultivated in a special place. For example, raging flame internal strength could only be cultivated in a place with abundant fire energy. On the other hand, ice internal strength could only be cultivated in a place with ice and snow or in a cold place like a cold pond. Internal strength with an attribute had an additional destructive effect compared to ordinary internal strength. It was more powerful under the same strength. As soon as Bian Chusheng finished speaking, his whole body was like a flying eagle pouncing on a rabbit. He jumped 10 feet and pounced on Yixing with a punch. Upper grade martial skill, Frost Fist. The Frost Fist performed with ice internal strength was very powerful. Moreover, wherever the wind from the palm passed, it would be bone-chilling and weaken the opponent's state. No wonder Bian Chusheng was able to defeat 2 martial Dao masters of the same realm and break into the top 5. Xiong Qisheng arranged for Bian Chusheng to fight in the first round. Obviously, he was very sure of Bian Chusheng's strength and wanted to defeat Yixing in the first round. However, in the face of Bian Chusheng's terrifying palm, Yixing's expression did not change at all. He just casually threw out a palm. Are you kidding me? Lower grade martial skill, Great Monument Hand? The audience present were all people who had cultivated upper grade martial skills. How could they not see that Yixing had used the lower grade martial skill, Great Monument Hand? They were extremely shocked. In the eyes of the spectators, Yixing's palm strike was very casual. However, in Bian Chusheng's eyes, this palm strike covered the heavens and earth. Bian Chusheng's expression changed drastically, and his heart trembled. The momentum of the frigid frost palm dissipated instantly. In the shocked eyes of the audience, Bian Chusheng's Frost Fist was defeated and was slapped away by Yixing's palm. However, Yixing's palm continued to move forward and imprinted on Bian Chusheng's chest. Bang! Bian Chusheng was sent flying by Yixing's palm. He was like a kite with a broken string floating in the distance. Chapter 103. Whether it was the students or the deacons, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Even the teachers in the VIP building and the higher-ups of the academy had a change in expression. Their faces were filled with obvious shock. A master in the 7th stage of the martial path was defeated by Yixing, who was in the 6th stage of the martial path. This was unbelievable. Bian Chuxing flew more than 10 feet away and fell to the ground. He felt a sharp pain in his chest and couldn't get up for a while. His face was ashen. Not only was his body severely injured, but his mind was also severely damaged. Bian Chuxing finally understood why Yixing called him an idiot. It was because he was an idiot. He couldn't even block Yixing's palm, but he thought that he was infallible in front of Yixing. It was ridiculous. Bian Chuxing's defeat made Yu Cixue, Li Yanzhao, and Ling Fengjue look serious. Yixing's strength was far beyond their expectations. The first round, Yixing wins. Bian Chuxing loses. Deacon Luo was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted and announced the results of the first round. Then, he announced the names of the participants for the second round. The second round, Yu Cixue versus Yixing. Many students found it strange that Yixing would be in the second round. Logically speaking, since Yixing had participated in the first round, he wouldn't participate in the second round. It should be a fight between two of the remaining 3 people. The third round would be between the last person and Yixing, who had won the first round. The same person was arranged for 2 consecutive rounds. This was suspected to be a tag team battle. However, the students knew that Yixing defeated Bian Chuxing with a single palm. He didn't consume much energy. Even if he fought consecutively, his opponent in the second round wouldn't be able to take advantage of him. Yu Cixue walked in front of Yixing. Her expression was charming as she said softly to Yixing, "Senior brother Yi, please show mercy." As the goddess of the genius class, Yu Cixue's expression almost stole the souls of many male students. Many male students wished they could replace Yixing and imagine that Yu Cixue would be so charming to them. Yixing's expression didn't change at all as he nodded slightly. Although Yu Cixue was beautiful, Yixing had seen the true face of Wei Qingxian, who was 10 times more beautiful than her. Now, Yixing's standards of beauty were no longer that of a country bumpkin. He compared everything to Wei Qingxian. In the face of Yu Cixue's charm, his heart was as calm as still water. "Let's begin," Deacon Luo ordered. He would be the judge of the top 5 ranking battles. Whoosh! As soon as Deacon Luo's voice fell, Yu Cixue's figure disappeared in a flash. Upper grade movement technique, wind shadow steps. The wind shadow steps was extremely fast. When it was used, one could only hear the sound of the wind and not see the body. Because of the extreme speed, the body faded into a faint shadow. In terms of strength, Yu Cixue wasn't stronger than other early stage 7th stage masters. Her strength was in her movement technique. With the wind shadow steps, which had surpassed the initial stage, she appeared and disappeared like a ghost and attacked her opponent suddenly. Whoosh! Yixing stepped on the Big Dipper and his body also turned illusory, leaving behind afterimages. Competing with him in movement technique? This was Yixing's strength. In the next moment, Yu Cixue's body appeared behind Yixing. Her fist was like a dragon emerging from the sea. It was powerful and overbearing. She used the upper-grade martial skill, Tyrant Dragon Fist. However, at this moment, Yixing's body had already disappeared. His afterimage flashed beside Yu Cixue. Yu Cixue's fist missed. Yixing appeared a few feet away from Yu Cixue, playing with a jade hairpin in his hand. Yu Cixue originally wanted to continue fighting with her opponent using the wind shadow steps. However, when she saw the jade hairpin in Yixing's hand, her expression changed. It was the hairpin on her head. She touched her head and sure enough, the hairpin had disappeared. A piercing chill appeared in Yu Cixue's heart. Yixing took the hairpin from her head and she didn't even notice. Didn't that mean that if Yixing wanted her life, she would already be dead? Thank you, senior brother Yi, for showing mercy. Cixue has lost. Yu Cixue bowed respectfully to Yixing with a face full of reverence. Yixing returned the hairpin to his opponent. In the second round, he won with one move again. At this time, the shock on the faces of the students was no longer as intense. The shock that Yixing had caused them had already reached the limit and they were beginning to become numb. After Yixing's enlightenment, his strength has increased by a lot. Bian Chusheng and Yu Xixue were both defeated by him in one move. It seems that first place in the exam will really be taken by him. Some students sighed. Yixing, as a student of the common class, had won first place in the exam. If such a thing really happened, it was likely that many years later, it would still be spread throughout the Purple Mountain Academy. This was because Yixing was originally in the gifted class. It was the academy that eliminated him to the common class. In the process of spreading this news, the academy would undoubtedly be the one that was slapped in the face. It seems that eliminating him to the common class was indeed the academy's mistake. He will definitely take first place in this exam. Li Yanzhao and Ling Fengjue's strength shouldn't be much different from Bian Chusheng and Yu Xixue's. I wonder if they can withstand one move from Yixing, some students said so. These words received the approval of the majority of the students. After all, based on the strength that Yixing had displayed, the results could basically be determined. The only difference was whether Li Yanzhao and Ling Fengjue could withstand one move from Yixing or even longer. At the highest floor of the VIP building, Vice Principal Wang Haiqing's face was gloomy. Yixing's elimination from the gifted class was something that Wang Haiqing had told him. Now, the more outstanding Yixing's performance was, the more Wang Haiqing's face would be slapped. Vice Principal Wang, such a genius, was actually eliminated to the common class. Hee, this is your people's negligence. An old man in his 60s stroked his long beard as he looked at Wang Haiqing. The corners of his eyes carried a faintly discernible smile. There were a total of 3 vice principals in the Indigo Mountain Institute. This old man was called Wu Yunshan, and he was also a vice principal. However, because the Wang clan's descendant, Wang Feng, was Zishan Ho's adopted son, Wang Haiqing's position in the Indigo Mountain Institute also rose along with the tide. It was faintly surpassing the other 2 vice principals. Most of the time, Wang Haiqing had the right to speak. Wang Haiqing was only in his 50s, and he was the youngest among the 3 vice principals. However, he was able to suppress the other 2 vice principals, which naturally caused the other 2 vice principals to be dissatisfied. Among the 3 vice principals, Mo Xiaocang only listened to Wang Haiqing. Now that Wang Haiqing's people had made a mistake, Wu Yunshan naturally took the opportunity to attack. Wang Haiqing coldly snorted and took a sip of tea. His expression slowly returned to normal as he said, "The competition is not over yet, and it's still too early to make a conclusion. Moreover, Yixing is only a 2-star Heavenly Fate Realm cultivator. How can he have any future prospects? Even if he's strong for now, it doesn't mean anything." Wu Yunshan didn't let go of this opportunity and said, "A 2-star Heavenly Fate Realm cultivator is naturally weak, but it doesn't mean that he can't become a talent. No talent can stop luck, and luck is accumulated by standing at the peak time after time. If Yixing can obtain first place in this competition, it can be seen that his luck isn't small. There's still hope for him to become a talent in the future." Then Mo Xiaocang has really eliminated a genius, and he should be punished. At the very least, he should be stripped of his qualifications to lead the genius class, and a more steady and meticulous teacher should be sent to lead the new students. The other vice principal, Li Xiaoran, also nodded, "That's right. If Yixing obtains first place, then Mo Xiaocang's qualifications to lead the genius class will be stripped." In the Violet Mountain Academy, there were several 9th stage martial path teachers, but there were only 2 in the genius class. Not all 9th stage martial masters were qualified to lead the genius class. And once they lead the genius class, they would have a teacher-student relationship with the other geniuses in the genius class. In the future, when these geniuses graduate and return to their respective families, they would either become elders or patriarchs. Therefore, being a teacher in the genius class was a good job. The three vice principals each had their own factions, and naturally, they would want their own people to be the teachers of the genius class. Wu Yunshan and Li Xiaoran, the two vice principals, had joined hands, and with Mo Xiaocang's weakness, it was completely possible to remove Mo Xiaocang from his position. Even Wang Haiqing would not be able to keep his position. After all, Wang Haiqing's words were only slightly more powerful, but not to the extent of being the king of the academy. At this time, Wu Yunshan's old face lit up with joy. He laughed, ha. Yixing defeated Li Yanzhao with one move again. It seems like Ling Fengjue is about the same under Yixing. The first place of the examination is Yixing's for sure. Li Xiaoran's expression was also filled with joy. As long as Mo Xiaocang's position was removed, then his people would have a 50% chance of succeeding. On the square, Li Yanzhao's situation was similar to Bian Chusheng's. He was also sent flying by Yixing's palm. Towards someone who had an agreement with Xiong Qisheng, Yixing would not show mercy. The third match, Yixing wins, Li Yanzhao loses. The fourth match, Ling Fengjue vs Yixing. Deacon Luo first announced the result of the third match, then immediately announced the name list for the fourth match. For the 4 consecutive matches, Yixing was present in all of them. He fought against 4 people in a row. Anyone could see that there was something fishy about the arrangement of the matches. It was obvious that they wanted to take turns to deal with Yixing. They did not want Yixing to obtain the first place of the examination. However, even if they took turns to fight, it did not have any effect. Looking at Yixing's expression, he did not look like he had consumed too much inner strength. In the 3 consecutive matches, Yixing defeated his opponents with one move, so he did not consume much inner strength. Therefore, in the 4th match against Ling Fengjue, Yixing was still in peak condition. At this time, even the most biased students were certain of the result. The first place of the examination would definitely belong to Yixing. Even if they did not want to see this result, Yixing's strength was too terrifying. Bian Chusheng, Yu Xixue, and Li Yanzhao were all defeated with one move. Ling Fengjue could not possibly be Yixing's opponent. Ling Fengjue walked into the arena and faced Yixing. Yixing was like a mountain standing tall and deep in the abyss. His temperament was otherworldly, while Ling Fengjue frowned slightly. His expression was melancholy. The difference in their auras was instantly determined. There was almost no suspense about the result of this match. However, at this time, a voice drilled into Yixing's ears. Yixing, I am the Vice Dean, Wang Haiqing. You have lost this match. After this, I will recall you back to the gifted class. The voice had been in a high position for a long time and was filled with a commanding tone. There will be another chapter tonight. The monthly votes are very sad. I beg for a monthly vote in tears. Chapter 104. Wang Haiqing. Jiang Haiqing was Xiong Qisheng's master. Although it was Xiong Qisheng who stepped in to eliminate him from the gifted class, Wang Haiqing's shadow was definitely behind it. Yixing was enraged. Wang Haiqing's words had caused him to fly into a rage. He wanted him to lose this battle. Furthermore, he was using a commanding tone. Yixing sneered in his heart. Who did he think he was? Perhaps because he saw the dissatisfaction on Yixing's face, Wang Haiqing's voice once again sounded in Yixing's ears. If you lose this battle, I can recall you back to the gifted class. If you dare to win, in this Purple Mountain Academy, there will be me, Wang Haiqing, and there will be no Yixing, a threat. It was a blatant threat. Facing the threat of a vice principal, how many students would not be afraid? Coincidentally, Yixing was one of them. I, Yixing, do things according to my heart. Who dares to force me? Yixing could not use his inner strength to transmit his voice to the other party. He could only snort coldly in his heart. At this moment, Ling Fengjue, who was opposite Yixing, also received Wang Haiqing's inner strength transmission. I am Wang Haiqing. Yixing has received my warning. You can attack as you wish. He won't dare to resist. Wang Haiqing had too much confidence in his own prestige. He thought that with his threat, he would definitely be able to make Yixing, a junior from an ordinary city, submit to him. Wang Haiqing. Vice Principal Wang. Ling Fengjue's eyes lit up. Yixing's goal was to become a martial saint. He did not place too much importance on Wang Haiqing, the vice principal. However, in Ling Fengjue's eyes, Wang Haiqing was an unreachable figure. After receiving Vice Principal Wang's transmission, how could Ling Fengjue not be happy? He did not doubt Wang Haiqing's words. He believed that Yixing would definitely listen to Wang Haiqing's warning and not dare to attack. No matter how strong Yixing was, if he did not dare to make a move, what was there to be afraid of? The fear in Ling Fengjue's heart immediately receded, and he became high-spirited. He. Yixing, if I defeat you, my name will definitely spread far and wide, and I will even take first place in the examination. Ling Fengjue thought to himself, and he was incomparably happy. When Deacon Luo said, "Begin," Ling Fengjue immediately unsheathed his sword and turned it into a cold light, thrusting towards Yixing high-grade martial skill, 9 Gale swords. The sword was like a gust of wind, and the sword light was like lightning. It was extremely fast. Ling Fengjue believed Wang Haiqing's words and believed that Yixing would not fight back. Therefore, this sword attack was completely offensive. It was fast, but in Yixing's eyes, it was full of openings. His gaze turned cold and he instantly attacked. Low-grade martial skill, flower-piercing hands. Yixing's hands were like butterflies piercing through flowers, passing through the sword light. In Ling Fengjue's eyes, Yixing's hands also turned into 2 butterflies, fluttering in the wind. His sword light was like blooming flowers. No matter how fast the butterflies flew, or how dense the flowers were, the butterflies did not come into contact with any of the flowers. In an instant, Yixing's hands pierced through the sword light. One of his hands slapped on Ling Fengjue's wrist, and the other on the sword hilt. Whoosh! In an instant, the treasured sword shot out from Ling Fengjue's hands, and was directly sent flying by Yixing. Ling Fengjue was surprised that Yixing dared to ignore Vice Dean Wang's warning, and actually dared to fight back. He felt a pain in his chest as he suffered a heavy blow. Peng 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 peng, Yixing punched out, and his fists turned into 1,000 shadows, overlapping each other. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 punches landed on Ling Fengjue's chest. He could only blame Ling Fengjue's bad luck. At this moment, Yixing's heart was burning with anger, so his attacks were much heavier than those of Bian Chusheng and Li Yanzhao. After receiving more than 10 punches from Yixing, Ling Fengjue's internal organs were damaged, and he was severely injured. His body was immediately sent flying, and he spat out mouthfuls of blood in the air. Ling Fengjue's defeat was not out of the expectations of the students. However, Yixing used 2 moves to beat him up so miserably, which shocked the students. They naturally did not know that before the battle, Yixing was threatened by Wang Haiqing, and his heart was burning with anger. Therefore, Ling Fengjue was in the same group as Xiong Qisheng, so his attacks were heavier. Of course, if the students knew that Yixing was threatened by Wang Haiqing, they would be even more shocked. In the Purple Mountain Academy, even the Vice Dean's threat was ignored. This was even more shocking than seriously injuring Ling Fengjue. Impudent! On the highest floor of the VIP building, Wang Haiqing was furious as he roared. A mere 6th-level martial artist from an ordinary city, a mere 2-star martial artist with trash aptitude, dared to treat Wang Haiqing's words as wind past one's ears and directly ignore them? This was simply preposterous. Wang Haiqing had been in a high position for a long time. Among the 3 vice deans of the Purple Mountain Academy, he was the one with the most authority. Even a 9th-level master would have to be respectful in front of him. However, he was unable to suppress a new student of the ordinary class even after transmitting his voice twice. How could he not be angry in his heart? This roar came from the highest floor of the VIP building, and all the students in the square heard it clearly. Even though the students could not tell that it was Vice Dean Wang Haiqing's voice, the roar that came from the highest floor of the VIP building caused the students to be incomparably shocked, and their hearts shook. Some students even guessed that the owner of the voice was Vice Dean Wang Haiqing, and were even more shocked. Just how terrifying was a vice dean's anger? Who could withstand it? Yixing was not as scared as the other students towards Wang Haiqing's roar. Even though he acted ostentatiously, in reality, he was bold and meticulous, and knew what was going on. If the person who was threatening him was Zishan Ho, telling him to lose this battle, then Yixing would not say another word, and would definitely tuck his tail between his legs and behave obediently, and not offend Zishan Ho. First, because Zishan Ho was a martial saint, the strongest peerless expert that Yixing knew. Yixing's goal was to cultivate into a martial saint. In other words, since he had achieved his goal, he would only be on par with Zishan Ho, and might not even have Zishan Ho's strength. Offending him would be unwise. Second, because Zishan Ho was the person with the highest authority in Zishan County, he was the Duke of Zishan County. In Zishan County, no one could control him. Therefore, if he wanted to kill someone, even if he had no reason, no one could stop him. But Wang Haiqing was different. Wang Haiqing did not have either of these two reasons. First, Wang Haiqing was not a martial saint, and second, he was not the person with the highest authority in Zishan County. He was still restricted by people with higher authority, such as Zishan Ho. Therefore, it was destined that Wang Haiqing could not act recklessly. No matter how great his authority was, he still had to act according to the rules. Otherwise, if he did something he should not do, he would be punished by people with higher authority. The most important point was that Mu Feng had once told Yixing that a cultivator's dignity could not be sullied. If he had to resist, he should resist. Mu Feng, as a member of the Marquis household, being able to say these words was obviously not a casual remark, but rather a proof of one thing. That was, Zishan Ho was a person who managed things, and would not allow the upper echelons of the academy to oppress the students. Only in this way would Mu Feng's words be meaningful, and not empty words. Because of all these reasons, Yixing did not take Wang Haiqing's threat seriously. A cultivator's dignity could not be sullied. Only in a situation where there was no other choice would they be oppressed. As long as there was a chance, they would live with dignity and fight back against anyone who oppressed them. Yixing's fist was still unable to land on Wang Haiqing's body. Therefore, he could only let Ling Fengjue suffer. Who asked him to collude with Xiong Qisheng, and Xiong Qisheng was Wang Haiqing's disciple. On the highest floor of the VIP building. Compared to Wang Haiqing's anger, Wu Yunshan and Li Xiaoran, the two vice deans, were full of smiles. They were in a good mood. Yixing defeating Ling Fengjue and obtaining first place in the assessment was exactly what the two vice deans wanted. Wu Yunshan chuckled and said, "Vice Dean Wang, why are you so excited? The battle for first place is the most intense." Yixing, in order to prevent himself from being defeated in the last round, used a bit more strength. This is very normal. In order to eliminate the impact of Wang Haiqing's angry shout, Wu Yunshan deliberately used his inner strength when speaking. His voice spread out so that everyone could hear him. "Ha! Yixing, don't be afraid. You were able to obtain first place in the assessment, you are the pillar of our Zishan Academy. No one can make things difficult for you. As for that Ling Fengjue, he suffered heavy injuries. This is not a problem. I, Wu Yunshan, will heal him." Wu Yunshan said a lot before realizing that Yixing might not know who he was from his voice, so he deliberately mentioned his name. This made Yixing smile in his heart. There was no need for Zishan Ho to come out and control Wang Haiqing. Zishan Academy had 3 vice deans. Wang Haiqing obviously could not cover the sky with one hand. This vice dean Wu Yunshan could go against him. For Yixing, this was naturally a good thing. As for the other students, when they heard that the speaker was Vice Dean Wu Yunshan, they were surprised. Vice deans were too high up for students. It was very difficult for students to come in contact with them. Because of this, Xiong Qisheng did not have the best aptitude in the advanced genius class, nor did he have the highest cultivation. However, he was Wang Haiqing's personal disciple, which made him limitless in the advanced genius class. Yixing had only been in the Zishan Academy for a month, but he had already angered one of the vice-deans and made another vice-dean speak up for him. This made the other students surprised. However, Vice Principal Wu Yunshan was not the only one who spoke up for Yixing. Vice Principal Li Xiaoran also spoke up. Vice Principal Wu is right. Yixing is one of the pillars of our Purple Mountain Academy. He is the #1 genius amongst the new students. He should be rewarded. How could he be so presumptuous? Moreover, such a genius was actually eliminated to the ordinary class. They really had eyes but failed to see. They missed out on such a talent. Some people should be punished. Some people should wake up. Li Xiaoran did not need to point out his identity. Others could guess who the speaker was. Interrupting Wang Haiqing and Wu Yunshan when the two vice-deans were speaking, and even criticizing the genius class teacher Mo Xiaozong, of course, it was the other vice-dean, Li Xiaoran. This made the other students even more surprised. Both Wu Yunshan and Li Xiaoran praised Yixing. Wang Haiqing snorted and no longer said anything. At this time, Yixing had won the first place in the new student assessment and had the support of two vice-deans. Even Wang Haiqing could not touch a single hair on Yixing's head. Under the affirmation of the two vice-deans, Yixing's first-place result naturally had no objections. It was confirmed that he received 12 high-grade star accumulating pills and 3 high-grade herbs as a generous reward. Chapter 105. Not long after, the 2nd to 5th places were also decided. Because Bian Chusheng, Li Yanzhao, and Ling Fengjue had all suffered heavy injuries from Yixing, the 2nd place was taken by the uninjured Yu Xixue. Ling Fengjue's injuries were the heaviest. Even if he received treatment, he wouldn't be able to recover much of his strength in a short period of time. Naturally, he was ranked last among the 5. Bian Chusheng and Li Yanzhao had another fierce battle. In the end, Bian Chusheng won by half a move and took 3rd place. Li Yanzhao took 4th place. After the top 5 places were decided, the rewards for the 2nd to 5th places were also given out. However, although several people received generous rewards, other than Yu Xixue, Bian Chusheng, Li Yanzhao, and Ling Fengjue didn't have the slightest bit of joy. Each of them was frowning. After the top 5 rewards were given out, the top 10, top 20, and top 40 rewards were also given out. Many students received rewards, and most of them were very happy in their hearts. As for the students who didn't enter the top 40, they could only look at others with envious eyes. The new student assessment ended in a situation where a small number of people were happy and a large number of people were envious. However, many students knew that today's big event wasn't over yet. Perhaps, the real big event had not yet begun, and was about to begin. Compared to the battle between Yixing and Xiong Qisheng, the new student assessment was simply a child's play, not worth mentioning. Sure enough, when Deacon Luo announced the end of the new student assessment, Yixing shouted loudly, "Xiong Qisheng, it's your turn." The previous conversation between Yixing and Xiong Qisheng was not known to all students. A large number of students were unaware. Hearing that Yixing actually called out Xiong Qisheng's name, they couldn't help but be shocked. Xiong Qisheng was not only an outstanding genius in the advanced genius class, he was also the personal disciple of Vice Principal Wang Haiqing. Who in the Purple Mountain Institute did not know of him? As for Yixing, although he had obtained 1st place in the freshman assessment, in the hearts of the students, he still couldn't be compared to the elites of the advanced genius class. Yixing challenging Xiong Qisheng was naturally shocking. Has his head been kicked by a donkey? He's already gotten 1st place in the new student exam. How glorious is that? Yet he insists on challenging a student from the advanced genius class. Isn't he just asking for trouble and looking for a beating? Someone thought in his heart. As for the students who had overheard the conversation between Yixing and Xiong Qisheng, they were somewhat moved and could not help but sigh. Yixing was really fearless. However, they were also not optimistic about the outcome of Yixing challenging Xiong Qisheng. Not to mention the students, even the deacons, teachers, and the 3 vice-deans were shocked. Yixing's challenge to Xiong Qisheng was out of everyone's expectations. Even they were shocked. The one who had the strongest emotional reaction was none other than Wang Haiqing. Wang Haiqing's first reaction was anger. Yixing had ignored his warning and obtained first place in the assessment. This already made Wang Haiqing furious. Now, Yixing had challenged his disciple Xiong Qisheng in front of everyone's eyes. This provoked his nerves even more. However, the anger only existed for a moment. Wang Haiqing's heart was filled with joy. Xiong Qisheng was a master at the peak of 7th stage, while Yixing had only defeated a few masters at the early stage of 7th stage. Although he had won cleanly, the difference in strength between the early stage of 7th stage and the peak of 7th stage was not small. Wang Haiqing did not think that Yixing would be a match for Xiong Qisheng. Wang Haiqing was worried about how to deal with Yixing. Now that he had borrowed Xiong Qisheng's hand to deal with him, it was not a bad idea. Wang Haiqing immediately transmitted his voice to Xiong Qisheng using internal energy. Sheng, don't have any scruples. Just beat him to death. If he admits defeat and begs for mercy, humiliate him. If he doesn't, then beat him until he's crippled. Hearing this, the corners of Xiong Qisheng's mouth curled up. His eyes revealed a trace of pride. He thought to himself, Yixing, this time I'll make you beg for death. Xiong Qisheng quickly walked into the center of the square. His eyes were cold and fierce, like a poisonous snake staring at Yixing. Yixing, don't say that I, Xiong Qisheng, am bullying you. You're digging your own grave. Xiong Qisheng was delighted, but he pretended to be arrogant and cold. He said coldly, come, I'd like to see how strong you, the number 1 freshman, are. You dare to challenge me, Xiong Qisheng, humph. Xiong Qisheng, don't ruin the reputation of our advanced class. Deal with him hard. Teach this kid a lesson. Let him know the difference between a freshman and an advanced class student. Teach him a hard lesson as a warning to others. Let the freshmen know the consequences of disrespecting their seniors. Because of their standpoint, the majority of the advanced class students naturally stood on Xiong Qisheng's side. Many of them shouted loudly. Only Wei Qingxian clenched her fists and silently cheered Yixing on. Yixing, you must win. Do your best. Do your best. Although the battle between Yixing and Xiong Qisheng could be seen as a battle between a freshman and a senior, the advanced class students supported Xiong Qisheng because of this. However, not many of the freshmen supported Yixing. They didn't have the slightest bit of confidence in Yixing. One by one, the martial Dao masters, grandmasters, and martial grandmasters narrowed their eyes and carefully sized up Yixing. They wanted to see through him, but unfortunately, they could only see Yixing's otherworldly temperament. They couldn't see through Yixing's true background. Xiong Qisheng was also sizing up Yixing, but he also couldn't see through Yixing's background. He was also a meticulous person. Even though what he wanted to do the most before was to fight to the death with Yixing, he hesitated when Yixing challenged him to a life and death battle in front of the entire academy. He hesitated because he didn't understand. He didn't understand because he couldn't see where Yixing's confidence came from. What was he relying on? This led to his lack of confidence. Yixing chuckled when he saw that the other party wasn't in a hurry to answer. Instead, he kept looking at him. You don't dare. Ha ha. The senior of the advanced genius class is actually a coward. Although Yixing's words were meant to provoke him, they were very effective. Not only did Xiong Qisheng's eyes burn with anger, but even the other advanced genius class students felt as if explosives had been ignited in their hearts. They were all furious. As for the new students, most of them revealed smiles at this moment. At this moment, they finally found a sense of belonging from Yixing and recognized Yixing as the representative of the new students. Xiong Qisheng's expression was a little ugly. His eyes were cold as he stared at Yixing and said, "Do you really think that you can fight me with your current strength?" Yixing continued to chuckle. So long-winded. Sheng, you're usually very courageous. Why are you so hesitant in the face of death? The path of martial arts has always been one where the courageous advance can achieve great success. Your mentality really disappoints me. Wang Haiqing's internal energy transmitted sound rang in Xiong Qisheng's ears. Moreover, even if the sky falls, Master will be there to support you. What do you have to think about? Wang Haiqing's words enlightened Xiong Qisheng and cleared up the hesitation in his heart. Yes. With Master here, how could he leave me in the lurch? Why should I hesitate because of that little risk and lose face for nothing? Xiong Qisheng thought to himself and blamed himself for his hesitation. With this thought, Xiong Qisheng's expression turned for the better. He recovered his confident expression and said, "Okay, Yi Xing, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Since you and I are both willing to fight to the death, then there's no need to go to the life and death arena. Let's sign the life and death contract here. Let's fight to the death and let everyone see how you'll walk down the path of death under my hands." Okay. Xiong Qisheng, I support you. Xiong Qisheng, fight for your dignity and destroy that arrogant kid. Spread the name of our advanced genius class. Xiong Qisheng's acceptance of the challenge immediately made the advanced genius class students' blood boil. They all shouted loudly and their voices shook the sky. There was nothing more exciting than a life and death battle. After it was posted, I rarely spoke in the V chapter. But today, I had to say something. I'm very thankful for today. When I woke up, I was pleasantly surprised. My monthly votes broke 100 and there were many brothers who tipped me. I'm very thankful. Let's talk about Arrow God's update. Everyone knows about Chocolate's situation. Writing Arrow God and Immeasurable at the same time is very busy every day. However, I'll maintain the daily updates. 2 chapters guaranteed. The monthly votes will be calculated separately. The update time is currently set to the first chapter from 12 to 1 o'clock. The second chapter from 19 to 20 o'clock. The additional updates will be after 8 o'clock at night. This time, I'd like to express my gratitude. I also hope that the brothers will continue to vote for us. We have the strength to take first place. Chapter 106. Yi Xing and Xiong Qisheng had both signed a life and death contract. They would fight to the death in the Purple Mountain Plaza. All the students, deacons, teachers, and the 3 vice deans of the Purple Mountain Academy were witnesses to this life and death battle. Among them, the most excited ones were Xiong Qifeng and Xiong Qikai, the 2 juniors of the Xiong family from Firmament City. Yi Xing had killed the Xiong family's martial Dao master in front of everyone in Firmament City. He had trampled on the Xiong family's dignity. At this moment, Yi Xing and the most outstanding genius in the history of the Xiong family, Xiong Qifeng and Xiong Qikai, were in a life and death battle. As juniors of the Xiong family, Xiong Qifeng and Xiong Qikai were naturally excited. They were looking forward to the moment when Yi Xing would be killed by Xiong Qisheng. Other than Wei Qingxian, Yi Xing was most worried about Yi Xing, Yi Yunlong and Yi Yundai, the 2 juniors of the Firmament City's Ye family, were also extremely nervous for Yi Xing. As for Yi Qingyan and Yi Qingzhou, who were also from Firmament City, they were incomparably shocked. They had personally witnessed Yi Xing's rise in Firmament City. Regardless of the outcome of this life and death battle, Yi Xing was able to obtain first place in the freshman assessment within a month of entering the Purple Mountain Academy. Furthermore, he dared to challenge Xiong Qisheng, who was at the peak of the 7th stage. This was already a miracle. Xiong Qisheng! Xiong Qisheng! Many seniors shouted in unison, cheering for Xiong Qisheng. At this moment, even though Wei Qingxian, Yi Yunlong, and Yi Yundai were hoping for Yi Xing to win, they were too embarrassed to shout for Yi Xing. They could only silently cheer for Yi Xing in their hearts. In the square, Xiong Qisheng had already unsheathed his saber. The blade of the saber was like the moon, glittering with cold light. It was an extremely sharp treasured saber. Xiong Qisheng threw the scabbard to the side. Seeing that Yi Xing was only wearing a pair of gold-threaded gloves, Xiong Qisheng sneered, "You don't need a bow." In Xiong Qisheng's letter to his family, he wrote about how Yi Xing had killed Xiong Badian with a bow and arrow. Therefore, even though Xiong Qisheng had never seen Yi Xing's bow and arrow, he was very afraid of it. In his opinion, Yi Xing's greatest trump card should be his bow and arrow. "Killing you is more than enough with my hands. I don't need a bow," Yi Xing said casually. "Arrogant!" Xiong Qisheng shouted angrily, but in fact, he was actually relieved. In his opinion, if Yi Xing didn't use a bow and arrow, he definitely wouldn't be a match for him. "Die!" Xiong Qisheng suddenly attacked. He waved the treasured saber in his hand, and the saber radiance swept out like a crescent moon. It was an upper-grade martial arts technique, waning moon saber technique. This was the complete upper-grade martial arts technique of the Xiong family. Zishan Academy also had it. Under Wang Haiqing's guidance, Xiong Qisheng's waning moon saber technique had far surpassed the small success stage and was not far from the great success stage. With this level of attainment in the waning moon saber technique, Xiong Qisheng's strength was definitely top-notch among martial arts masters of the same level. With the peak of the 7th level of internal force and a saber technique that was close to the great success stage, Xiong Qisheng's saber slashed out. Even if it was just a saber radiance, the power was extremely terrifying. It was not inferior to the full blow of a 7th level martial arts master. With such a terrifying saber radiance, even if Yi Xing's bronze tactics had been perfected, if he was hit by it, his skin and flesh would be split open, and even his bones would be injured. Yi Xing did not dare to underestimate it. Yi Xing stepped on the Big Dipper and his body floated up. The saber radiance shot out from under his feet. Yi Xing's attainment in body movement was extremely high. Xiong Qisheng had already expected that the first saber would be dodged. When Yi Xing's body rose up and before he landed, Xiong Qisheng changed his saber technique and suddenly slashed down. Waning Moon Slash. The treasured saber slashed down vertically, and the saber radiance burst out, turning into a huge arc that instantly slashed towards Yi Xing. The speed of Xiong Qisheng's saber was much faster than Ling Fengjue, Bian Chusheng, and the others. Almost as soon as the saber was slashed out, the crescent-like saber radiance had already arrived in front of Yi Xing. Even with Yi Xing's body movement speed, it was difficult for him to dodge it. Compared to the thick crescent-like saber radiance, Yi Xing's body seemed very small. Looking at Yi Xing under the saber radiance, many people gasped, and many people's eyes lit up with excitement. Faced with this terrifying saber radiance, Yi Xing stretched out his palm and pushed forward, using the inferior martial arts technique, Great Monument Hand. In the assessment battle, Yi Xing had used the Great Monument Hand to severely injure Bian Chusheng. Now, it was the same move. Another inferior martial arts technique? Does he think Xiong Qisheng is Bian Chusheng? In an instant, someone cried out in surprise. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. Yi Xing wanted to use the inferior martial arts technique, Great Monument Hand, to fight against Xiong Qisheng's saber radiance. It was simply unbelievable. Yi Xing's attainments in martial arts techniques had increased greatly in the process of enlightenment. Although he did not upgrade his middle-grade martial arts techniques to the real, spirit, stage, his low-grade martial arts techniques had reached the spirit stage. Once a martial arts technique reached the spirit stage, even an inferior martial arts technique would have extremely terrifying power. Even a level 8 or level 9 grandmaster would find it difficult to cultivate an inferior martial arts technique to the spirit stage, and they would not be able to see the attainments in martial arts techniques at this stage. This was because the spirit of martial arts techniques could not be seen. It could only be sensed by the target of the attack. Xiong Qisheng sensed the spirit in Yi Xing's palm. In his eyes, Yi Xing's palm rapidly grew and then collided with the dazzling saber radiance. Bang! With a loud bang, the crescent saber radiance that was more than 10 feet long was actually shattered by Yi Xing's palm. Yi Xing's body also floated back at this moment. With the help of the saber radiance's power, he flew back several feet and was safe and sound. Yixing frowned slightly. He could feel the pain from his palm. The opponent's saber radiance was indeed terrifying. If he had not worn the golden silk gloves and directly clashed with his palm, his skin would definitely have been broken and blood would have flowed out. Of course, Yixing's golden silk gloves were only a middle-grade weapon. If it were an upper-grade weapon, then Yixing could have shattered the saber radiance without any damage. Compared to Yixing's frown, Xiong Qisheng was even more shocked. He was very clear about the power of this saber radiance. Although it was not a direct hit by the saber radiance, it could easily kill any level 6 martial artist. However, it was shattered by Yixing's palm. This was because it was extremely difficult to achieve the spirit in martial arts attainments. Even for martial artists above the master level, 99% of them could only cultivate martial arts to the edge of perfection, which was commonly known as the transformative realm. Therefore, even in the martial arts manuals, there were no records of the spirit entering the transformative realm. Almost all martial artists thought that the transformative realm was the limit of martial arts. Therefore, even though Xiong Qisheng felt the spirit of Yixing's martial arts technique, he did not understand why. He only felt that Yixing's attack was too strange and too terrifying. It could actually create an illusion effect. Thinking of how Yixing's palm suddenly became bigger in his eyes, Xiong Qisheng was extremely shocked. This was because he was far away from Yixing, so the spirit he felt was not strong. Therefore, he saw that Yixing's palm only became bigger to the size of the saber radiance. If the two of them were to fight in close combat, Yixing's palm would definitely be overwhelming in Xiong Qisheng's eyes. It was almost infinite, and that kind of pressure would be 10 times stronger. The surrounding audience was naturally more surprised than Xiong Qisheng. They did not feel the spirit of Yixing's martial arts. They only saw that Yixing used the low-grade martial arts technique, Great Monument Hand, and smashed Xiong Qisheng's saber radiance. This was simply too incredible. Even though it happened right in front of their eyes, the students still felt that it was unbelievable. The elders of the academy were not much better, they were filled with shock and confusion. You being able to block my saber is out of my expectations, but I am sure that you will not feel good after blocking my saber. I would like to see how many sabers you can block. Xiong Qisheng coldly snorted. He once again struck out with his saber. The saber radiance was like the moon, explosively chopping towards Yixing. The more shocked he was towards Yixing, the more intense his killing intent towards Yixing. This was because Yixing made him feel afraid. He had to eliminate him as soon as possible. Otherwise, when Yixing became stronger, it was very likely that the Xiong clan would be the ones to be eliminated. In the face of Xiong Qisheng's saber radiance, Yixing still used the Great Monument Hand. In his hands, the low-grade martial arts technique became magical. It had a magical power that could turn something rotten into something magical. It blocked Xiong Qisheng's terrifying saber radiance. While using the Great Monument Hand to block, Yixing also used the 7-star steps to the limit. The 7-star steps of the transformative realm merged with the wind force. Its speed was almost as fast as lightning. Even though Xiong Qisheng's saber radiance had reached an extremely terrifying level, it was still unable to hit Yixing out of the 2 sabers. At least one of them was dodged by Yixing using his movement technique. This caused Xiong Qisheng to waste his energy. As for Yixing, he only blocked one of the 2 sabers. This greatly reduced the consumption of his inner strength. Yixing's martial arts attainment was much higher than Xiong Qisheng's. The key was the thickness and strength of his inner strength. Naturally, he had to think of ways to save his inner strength and exhaust his opponent's inner strength. Waning moon filling the sky. Seeing this, Xiong Qisheng shouted and changed his saber technique. Xiao 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 xiao, the saber in Xiong Qisheng's hand danced, almost turning into a curtain of light. In an instant, countless waning moon saber radiance danced in the air, densely covering all directions. This waning moon filling the sky was indeed as its name suggested. Although it could not fill up the entire sky, Xiong Qisheng's area of more than 10 feet was covered by the waning moon saber radiance. It was almost impossible to dodge. Yi Xing's eyes narrowed. This waning moon filling the sky restrained his movement technique. It was impossible for him to dodge more than half of the attacks like before. Since he could not dodge, Yi Xing did not bother to dodge. He stood still like a mountain. Then, he formed palms with his hands and struck out continuously. It was so fast that there were no shadows. Low-grade martial arts technique, consecutive palms. In Xiong Qixing's eyes, a dense number of palms appeared in front of him and collided with the waning moon saber radiance. Bang 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 bang, a series of explosions sounded. One after another, the waning moon saber radiance was shattered by Yi Xing in the blink of an eye. The waning moon filling the sky had countless waning moon saber radiance. Although it covered a wide area, the power of each waning moon saber radiance was much weaker. The consecutive palms was the same as the Great Monument Palm. The speed of the palms was faster and the number of attacks increased. The power was reduced. However, it was the best technique to deal with the waning moon filling the sky. Is this all you've got? It's time for me to make my move. The waning moon saber radiance disappeared. Yi Xing was safe and sound. He chuckled. Chapter 107. Xiong Qixing's eyes flashed with a sinister glint. His expression was solemn. From Yi Xing's words, it seemed that he hadn't used his full strength yet. This made Xiong Qixing very unhappy. He had almost used his full strength, but Yi Xing hadn't. Didn't that mean that Yi Xing's strength was above his? This was impossible. He couldn't believe it. At this moment, the spectating students had already quieted down. No one was cheering for Xiong Qixing anymore. From the exchange of blows just now, everyone could see that Yi Xing did indeed have the strength to fight Xiong Qixing. Everyone's eyes were filled with deep shock. Even the elders of the academy were shocked. Yi Xing's strength was beyond their expectations. Especially Wang Haiqing. Not only was he shocked, but his face was also gloomy. A ball of anger was burning in his heart. Yi Xing ignored his warning and took first place in the assessment. Not only did he go against his wishes, but he also caused Mo Xiaozang to lose his position as a teacher of the gifted class. This already made him hate Yi Xing to the bone. Now, his desire to see Xiong Qixing teach Yi Xing a lesson had failed. This made the anger in his heart even stronger. In the square, after Yi Xing finished speaking, he immediately launched a counterattack against Xiong Qixing. Yi Xing's figure was like lightning. He quickly pounced in front of Xiong Qixing. At this moment, Xiong Qixing just happened to slash down with his blade. Yi Xing's hands were like butterflies flitting through flowers as he slapped towards Xiong Qixing. Immediately, his hands passed through Xiong Qixing's blade light. Xiong Qixing was naturally much stronger than Ling Fengjue, especially his waning moon blade technique. It was profound and as fast as lightning. Even if Yi Xing's flower-piercing hand had reached perfection, it was still impossible for him to pass through all the blade lights and attack the hilt. As soon as Yi Xing's hands touched the blade, he was unable to go any further. If he went any further, he would be injured by the treasured blade. Bang! Bang! Yi Xing's hands avoided the sharp edge of the treasured saber and slapped on the saber's body. Immediately, the saber's body trembled and tilted to the side. Yi Xing scanned the saber with his superbrain, and he knew all the openings and weaknesses in his opponent's moves. The spots where Yi Xing struck were the two nodes on the saber where the qi was transferred. With Yi Xing's strike, Xiong Qixing's internal qi transfer was immediately interrupted. The power of the saber was instantly reduced by half, and that was why Yi Xing was able to deflect the saber. Otherwise, Xiong Qixing's saber was extremely powerful. Even if he had hit it, it would have been difficult to change the trajectory of the attack in an instant. From this, it could be seen that the superbrain scan was very effective in a battle. Kill! Yi Xing shouted. Taking advantage of the opportunity when his opponent's treasured saber was deflected to the side, his body pushed forward like a mountain. A surging aura was produced from Yixing's body. Boom! Yixing's anger was completely released at this moment. He glared at Yixing like a vajra and threw out a punch. Low-grade martial arts technique, Raging Steel Fist. Xiong Qisheng was shocked. At this moment, Yixing suddenly became incomparably tall in his eyes. When he threw out a punch, his fist was like a mountain crashing toward him. In the instant he was shocked, Xiong Qisheng's martial arts aura showed a flaw. Once there was a flaw, it quickly collapsed under the pressure of Yixing's terrifying aura. When an ordinary person was in the state of qi, he might be able to punch out half of his usual strength. However, when he was not in the state of qi, he might be able to punch out less than half of his usual strength. This was the difference between qi and qi. Yixing's aura was at its peak. It was extremely powerful, and his punch was like a mountain. It was extremely terrifying. On the other hand, Xiong Qisheng's aura was suppressed and completely collapsed. It was difficult for him to fully display his strength. If Yixing's opponent was Ling Fengjue or Bian Chusheng, this punch would be enough to defeat them and severely injure them. However, Yixing's opponent was Xiong Qisheng. He was much stronger than Ling Tongjue and Bian Chusheng. Even though his aura was suppressed, Xiong Qisheng did not completely lose his fighting spirit. He shouted angrily and stopped his aura from collapsing. At the same time, he instantly withdrew his treasured saber. Clang! Yixing's punch did not hit Xiong Qisheng's body. Instead, it was blocked by the saber, causing a shocking explosion. The Raging Steel Fist was a ferocious fist with astonishing power. Yixing's mastery of the Raging Steel Fist had reached the acme of perfection. It had the effect of turning something rotten into something magical, and the power it displayed was even more terrifying. At the moment of the explosion, Xiong Qisheng felt the treasured saber in his hand shake violently. A terrifying force rushed out from the saber. Xiong Qisheng felt as if he had suffered a heavy blow. His body suddenly retreated backward. His body also shook violently. The blood, qi, and internal breath in his body were also shaken. It was extremely uncomfortable. Whoosh! Xiong Qisheng was blasted more than 10 meters away by Yixing's punch. After landing, he also retreated continuously. Hiss! The sound of people sucking in cold air was heard. All the students were shocked. They looked at Xiong Qisheng, who was blasted away. They were all dumbfounded. Those seniors who were cheering for Xiong Qisheng, as well as Xiong Qifeng and Xiong Qikai, all turned pale. They were shocked and could not believe what had happened. Wei Qingxian, Yi Yunlong, and Yi Yundai were shocked but also overjoyed. Yixing had really created a miracle. Boom! Yixing took advantage of the situation to attack. His figure shot forward like an arrow. He continued to use the furious steel fist. With absolute speed and absolute power, he fiercely attacked Xiong Qisheng. Xiong Qisheng retreated a total of 7 steps before he could stabilize his body. The blood in his body was still surging. At this time, Yixing's fist was already coming. There was no time for him to adjust his breathing. He could only wave his saber to block again. Clang! Another explosive sound was heard as the blade was bent by Yixing's punch, and then bounced back in an instant, forcing Xiong Qisheng to retreat again. This time, the blood in his body shook violently and surged even more violently. He felt a sweet taste in his throat and a mouthful of blood gushed out. Previously, his frenzied attacks on Yixing had already caused the circulation of his blood and qi to quicken, leaving behind a hidden injury. Now that he had been struck twice in a row, the rapid flow of blood and qi in his body finally went out of control, and a portion of it went berserk. Xiong Qisheng was sent flying for the second time. This time, he retreated even further and spat out a mouthful of blood. This caused the surrounding people to cry out in surprise. At this moment, everyone was shocked. On the highest floor of the VIP building, Wang Haiqing's face was extremely gloomy. He narrowed his eyes. Xiong Qisheng's injury made the anger in his heart even more intense. Xiong Qisheng was sent flying for the second time. This time, he did not resist the impact of the force in his body. Instead, he risked some internal injuries and retreated with the force. In an instant, he pulled away from Yixing Xia. When Yixing punched for the third time, Xiong Qisheng roared. The saber in his hand turned into a cold glint and instantly shot out toward Yixing. This attack of throwing the saber surprised Yixing, but it was not a problem for Yixing. Yixing noticed the moment Xiong Qisheng was about to throw the saber. The angle of Yixing's fist changed slightly, and the treasured saber that was thrown at him was hit by the saber's body, which immediately flew to the side. Fatal chain kick. Xiong Qisheng's figure followed closely behind the saber. His legs broke through the air and in an instant, he launched countless kicks. Fatal chain kick, an upper-class martial arts technique. Xiong Qisheng's attainment in the fatal chain kick was not below that of the waning moon saber technique. The combination of throwing the saber and kicking was flawless. He took advantage of the fact that the opponent was blocking the saber and had not reacted. It was indeed impossible to guard against. No wonder it was called the fatal chain kick. However, Yixing scanned Xiong Qisheng's every move clearly. Even though Yixing's punch had blown away the saber and his fist momentum had been exhausted, Yixing was not unable to react. He had already prepared for it. Almost at the same time as Xiong Qisheng's consecutive kicks, Yixing's body suddenly rose into the air. His two legs also kicked out as fast as lightning. It was so fast that there was no shadow. Low-class martial arts technique, shadowless kick. Shadowless kick versus fatal chain kick. One was a low-class martial arts technique, while the other was an upper-class martial arts technique. In terms of internal force, Xiong Qisheng was obviously a level higher as a martial arts master at the peak of LV7. Logically speaking, Xiong Qisheng should have won in this leg competition. But the result was the exact opposite. Before Xiong Qisheng's kick landed on Yixing's body and he did not even see the shadow of Yixing's leg, he felt a sharp pain in his stomach. He was kicked by Yixing. The strength of Yixing's kick was not light. Xiong Qisheng was hit so hard that he immediately spat out blood. After receiving such a heavy blow, the fatal chain kick naturally could not continue. The superb shadowless kick was not slower than the fatal chain kick at all. In fact, it was even more deadly than the fatal chain kick. After Xiong Qisheng was hit by Yixing's first kick, he was consecutively kicked by Yixing more than 10 times in the blink of an eye. This time, not only did Xiong Qisheng spit out blood, but his body was also severely injured. His internal force at the peak of LV7 was shattered by the continuous attack of more than 10 kicks. His internal organs were instantly damaged. Bang! Xiong Qisheng was directly kicked to the ground by Yixing. Dense cracks appeared on the stone floor below. It could be seen how terrifying the attack was at that moment. Die! Yixing shouted loudly. His body leaped high and his foot stepped on Xiong Qisheng's throat. He and Xiong Qisheng were in a life-and-death battle. They had signed a life-and-death contract. If he lost, he would die without a doubt. If Xiong Qisheng lost, Yixing would not show mercy. Xiong Qisheng was the last hope of the Xiong family. If Xiong Qisheng was killed, the Xiong family would not be able to cause any more trouble. First, Xiong Baotian was killed. Now, Xiong Qisheng was also killed. From now on, the Xiong family would not be able to compete with the Ye family. However, just as Yixing was about to kill, a roar came from the highest floor of the VIP building. How dare you! Wang Haiqing roared. It caused the entire VIP building to tremble, and layers of sound waves were produced in the surrounding void. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, before Yixing's foot touched Xiong Qisheng's body, a huge palm print suddenly appeared in front of Yixing. This palm print was about 1 meter wide and 2 meters tall. It was as big as a door and was extremely frightening. None of the students and even some of the school deacons could see where this palm print came from. It seemed to have appeared out of thin air. However, Yixing's superbrain scanned the area and captured the trajectory of the palm print. It had shot out from the window of the highest floor of the VIP building just a moment ago. Chapter 108. The VIP building was more than 70 meters away from Yixing and Xiong Qisheng. More than 70 meters was not a short distance. Not to mention a 7th-level master, even an 8th-level guru would find it difficult to use his internal strength to attack more than 70 meters away to kill the enemy. Wang Haiqing was able to send a palm print more than 70 meters away in the blink of an eye from such a long distance. This level of skill was simply appalling. Most importantly, this palm print was as big as a door. If this palm were to hit the target, it was very likely that the target would be smashed into meat paste like a fly swatter swatting a mosquito. Yixing did not continue to attack Xiong Qisheng. At this moment, he felt an extremely terrifying life and death crisis. Soft bone palm. Yixing brushed his hands in an instant. All the bones in his body softened and his body became as soft as a snake. The moment Yixing came into contact with this huge palm print, he integrated the wind force into his lightness skill and performed the flying swan skill. Boom! With a loud explosion, Yixing was instantly sent flying by the huge palm print. However, his body was as light as a feather, like a piece of paper. He floated in the air for more than 30 meters before landing on the ground. When Yixing landed on the ground, a warrior in his 50s appeared next to Xiong Qisheng. This man was wearing a black brocade robe, and had a tall stature. His whole body was releasing an aura that was as deep as the sea, which was very terrifying. This person was Wang Haiqing, one of the 3 deputy deans. In such a short time, he had appeared in the middle of the square from the highest floor of the VIP building. Wang Haiqing's speed was simply uncanny. All the students did not see how Wang Haiqing appeared. They only knew that in the blink of an eye, he was not beside Xiong Qisheng. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared beside Xiong Qisheng. Wang Haiqing pushed Yixing back with one palm. After appearing beside Xiong Qisheng, he did not attack again. Instead, he looked at Xiong Qisheng with a haggard expression. Xiong Qisheng's mouth was bleeding. There were more than 10 footprints on his chest. A large part of his chest had caved in. Obviously, his bones were broken. He was seriously injured and had already fainted. Seeing that Xiong Qisheng was so badly injured, Wang Haiqing's eyes were burning with anger again. Yixing landed more than 100 feet away. He retreated nearly 10 steps before he could stabilize his body. His attainment in the soft bone palm was extremely high. It had reached the perfection realm. In addition, in a life-or-death situation, he was able to perform exceptionally well. It had almost reached the level of perfection. In addition, he had integrated the flying swan skill into the wind force. Yixing's body was as light as a feather. Therefore, although the power contained in the palm print was terrifying, it only sent him flying more than 100 feet away and did not hurt him. Of course, this was also because he was too far away from Wang Haiqing. They were more than 70 meters apart. Although Wang Haiqing's palm print was frightening, it also lost a lot of power. If they were closer, Yixing would definitely be seriously injured. Wang Haiqing grabbed Xiong Qisheng's shoulders and helped him up. Seeing that Xiong Qisheng's breathing was weak and unconscious, a terrifying killing intent flashed in his eyes. Little bastard. Wang Haiqing's gaze turned towards Yixing. His expression was frightening and almost crazy. Many students, seeing Wang Haiqing's expression, were shocked and subconsciously retreated. Yixing looked straight at Wang Haiqing's frightening gaze, but his expression did not change. He loudly said, "Xiong Qisheng and I have signed a life and death contract. In this decisive battle, life and death are determined by fate. No one is allowed to interfere. Vice Principal Wang, are you the king of the Zishan Academy? Can you trample on the rules and oppress students at will? In front of so many people, what do you think the teachers and students of the Zishan Academy are? What do you think Principal Zishan Ho is?" Yixing's words were stern and righteous. Hearing this, the majority of the students felt relieved. At this moment, they were all standing on Yixing's side. A battle of life and death was a matter of life and death. What kind of big deal was this? If someone could casually interfere in such a battle of life and death, which student would not feel suffocated? If there came a day when they were in a life and death situation with another person, and the result was that the other person could only kill them and they could not kill the other person, even if they had the upper hand, they would still be stopped. Any student would be furious at this thought. Of course, when they heard Yixing's words, not only did they feel relieved, but they also broke out in cold sweat for Yixing. They also admired Yixing's courage. Wang Haiqing was clearly furious at this moment. Especially from his expression, his heart was filled with killing intent. Yixing did not show any weakness in front of Wang Haiqing. Could it be that he was not afraid that Wang Haiqing would kill him in a fit of anger? All the students were shocked. However, Yixing could clearly see that even if Wang Haiqing had 10,000 times the courage, Wang Haiqing would not dare to touch him. This was because Wang Haiqing was only the vice principal of the Zishan Academy. Above him, there was still Principal Zishan Ho suppressing him. Wang Haiqing's interference in a life and death battle was already a violation of the rules. If he dared to kill him in front of everyone, that would be an even worse action. The consequences would definitely be severe. Zishan Ho would not allow such a thing to happen in the Zishan Academy. If the vice principal became enraged and killed someone in front of everyone, who would dare to come to such an academy? Which family would dare to let their most outstanding younger generation enter such an academy? In this way, if Wang Haiqing was not severely punished by Zishan Ho, the entire Zishan Academy would be crippled. Moreover, just now, the two vice principals Wu Yunshan and Li Xiaoran were singing a different tune from Wang Haiqing, publicly praising Yixing. But now, the two of them did not say a word. This was clearly a bit strange. Since the two vice principals Wu and Li Xiaoran were enemies with Wang Haiqing, it was impossible for them to not stop Wang Haiqing from breaking the rules. Since they did not stop him, there was only one possibility, and that was that Wang Haiqing did not break the rules enough. They were probably waiting for Wang Haiqing to make a move. If Wang Haiqing dared to kill Yixing, the two of them would be able to kill him in one fell swoop. Therefore, as long as Wang Haiqing had the slightest bit of brain, he would not make a move against Yixing. Therefore, Yixing was very calm when facing the angry Wang Haiqing. The truth was just as Yixing expected. Even though Wang Haiqing was extremely angry, and his killing intent towards Yixing was incomparably strong, he did not dare to do anything to Yixing. Wang Haiqing only snorted angrily, then carried Xiong Qisheng in his arms. His figure was like lightning, quickly leaving the square, and soon disappeared from sight. The students all let out a sigh of relief in their hearts. When they looked at Yixing again, their gazes were resolutely different. Just as he entered the Purple Mountain Academy, he was eliminated from the gifted class and became a student of the common class. Moreover, in the first month of being a student of the common class, he was punished and did not attend a single day of class. In this short span of a month, Yixing became first place in the new student assessment. Moreover, he defeated the elite of the advanced gifted class, Xiong Qisheng, and even confronted the vice principal Wang Haiqing without any change in expression. These events caused the majority of the students' view of Yixing to undergo a 180-degree change. From the initial contempt and disdain, to shock and jealousy, and finally to admiration and admiration. The matter ended when Xiong Qisheng was taken away by Wang Haiqing. The students dispersed in shock and admiration. Yixing had become an influential figure among the students. There was no one who did not know of him. Wherever Yixing went, the majority of the students would respectfully address him as Senior Brother Yi. Even the advanced class students found it difficult to be arrogant when they saw Yixing. Even the students who had a problem with Yixing would take a detour when they saw Yixing. They were very afraid of Yixing. Senior Brother Yixing, if the family knew of your progress in the Purple Mountain Academy, I don't know how happy they would be. The entire Ye family is proud of you. Yi Yunlong and Yi Yundai did not leave with the students. Instead, they came to Yixing. Yi Yunlong's voice was filled with awe and admiration for Yixing. Wei Qingxian also did not leave. He came to Yixing, waved his fist and said, Yixing, you have created another miracle. Let's make a bet and see who will become a martial Dao master first. Wu Yuan and Ma Bo also did not leave. However, they did not say anything. They only quietly followed behind Yixing. Looking at Yixing's back, their eyes were filled with admiration. The two of them were very glad that the person Yixing had decided to kill was Nie Dong and not one of them. They were also glad that they had made the right choice. The matter ended just like that. Wu Yunshan and Li Xiaoran, the two vice principals, had said that Yixing was a pillar of the academy and praised Yixing. However, in the end, the two of them did not ask for Yixing to return to the gifted class. After the glory, Yixing was still a student of the ordinary class. It was only when Yixing, Wei Qingxian, Yi Yunlong, and Yi Yundai parted ways and returned to dorm 175 that the ordinary class 10 teacher, Cui Haoran, came to talk to him about his return to the gifted class. Cui Haoran said, Yixing, your performance today shocked the entire academy. Even if your heavenly fate realm is not high, your strength is great. The academy values you greatly. If you want to return to the gifted class, you can apply to the academy. Your wish will definitely be granted. I have to apply to return to the gifted class for the academy to approve. He. They really do value me. After a month, Yixing found that there was not much difference between being in the ordinary class and the gifted class. The difference was 1 star accumulating pill per month, which was only 12 pills per year. And he had won first place in the new student assessment. The reward he received was not only 12 star accumulating pills, but also 3 high-grade medicinal herbs. If the academy asked him to return to the gifted class, Yixing would naturally return, but if he applied himself, Yixing expressed his thoughts to Cui Haoran, I think the ordinary class is good, so I won't apply. In the depths of the academy, in Wang Haiqing's mansion, on a big bed in a room. The blood on Xiong Qisheng's mouth had been wiped away and ointment had been applied to his wounds. However, he still did not wake up. Beside the bed, Wang Haiqing clenched his fists and looked at Xiong Qisheng with a terrifying flame in his eyes. Sheng, hurry up and get better. Father will definitely avenge you. I will not forgive that little bastard, absolutely not. The people of the Purple Mountain Academy were very curious. Xiong Qisheng was not the student with the best aptitude, the highest cultivation, and the greatest potential in the gifted class. Why did he win the favor of the vice principal Wang Haiqing and become Wang Haiqing's personal disciple? No one would have thought that Xiong Qisheng was Wang Haiqing's illegitimate son. Even Xiong Qisheng did not know. Today's plot setting took a lot of time, so the update was a bit slow. Sorry. But brothers, please rest assured. Today's update will definitely be updated 4 times. No matter how late it is. Today, the Arrow God has another alliance master. Brother destined for life, I am infinitely grateful. Begging for votes. Chapter 109. Senior Brother Yi, why don't you return to the gifted class? After Haoran left, Wu Yuan and Ma Bo asked in confusion. The treatment of the gifted class was double that of the ordinary class. Which student did not want to be in the gifted class? The reason why Nie Dong, Wu Yuan, and Ma Bo obeyed Xiong Qisheng was because Xiong Qisheng had promised them that he would get them back to the gifted class as soon as possible. From this, it could be seen that the temptation of the gifted class was indeed not low. Now that the academy had asked Yixing to apply to return to the gifted class, he could return. However, Yixing did not want to return, which really surprised Wu Yuan and Ma Bo. Yixing did not want to return because the academy did not directly ask him to return. Instead, he needed to apply himself. His pride was at stake, so he did not want to return. Of course, There was no need to explain this to Wu Yuan, and Ma Bo Yixing smiled faintly and said, I think that cultivating in the ordinary class is not bad. It will not be slower than the gifted class. The most important thing in cultivation is to rely on oneself. If you have ambition in your heart and persevere, you will be able to go far on the martial Tao. A firm heart is more important than superior resources. The first part of the sentence was casual, while the latter part was casual. It was Yixing's martial Tao comprehension. After a pause, Yixing continued, next, you should also cultivate diligently. I have decided to enter the Clear Sky mountain range to gain experience soon. I will take you with me. These 2-star accumulating pills are for you. While speaking, Yixing took out 2 high-grade star accumulating pills and gave one to each of them. This time, Yixing had won first place in the freshman assessment and received 12-star accumulating pills as a reward. Moreover, he also received 3 high-grade star accumulating pills, which were enough for him to cultivate for a period of time. It did not matter whether he received more or less high-grade star accumulating pills. Yixing did not return to the gifted class. It was not purely because of his pride. The most important reason was that his progress in the past month had made him understand that there was not much difference between the gifted class and the ordinary class. If he stayed in the Purple Mountain Academy for a few years, the difference in treatment between the gifted class and the ordinary class was still very big. However, Yixing felt that it was unlikely that he would stay in the Purple Mountain Academy for a few years. His goal was to become a martial saint within a year. Once he became a martial saint, he would be above the vice headmaster of the academy. Why should he care about the treatment of the academy? Furthermore, the Purple Mountain Academy did not even have a student in the 9th stage of the martial path. If Yixing became a martial saint in a year, who would be able to teach him? At that time, there was an 80 to 90% chance that he would not stay in Mount Indigo Academy. As such, he didn't care about the difference in treatment between the gifted class and the normal class. To Yixing, the superbrain was his best teacher. He should make full use of his strengths and train in Emerald Cloud Mountain Range. Only then could he grow faster. Therefore, Yixing had already made a decision. When he used up all the resources he had, he would go to the Emerald Cloud Mountain Range to train. The current him could enter the depths of the Emerald Cloud Mountain Range to hunt high-level vicious beasts and find high-grade medicinal ingredients. There was a huge gap between the 6th and 7th stages of the martial path. Yixing could not just stay in the academy and wait for the academy to give him resources. There were many students in the academy and the resources allocated were very little. If he wanted to quickly break through to the 7th stage of the martial path, it was inevitable that he would go to the Emerald Cloud Mountain Range to train. During the day, Yixing went to the ordinary class 10. During the class, Yixing divided his attention. While he cultivated the Qingyuan art, he also paid attention to the changes in the class. In the past, Yixing could carry water and cultivate at the same time. Now, it was naturally easier for him to cultivate at the same time. In class, Yixing was completely a top student. Whether it was theory or practice, Yixing could perfectly answer all the questions. At night, Yixing cultivated the upper-grade body refining technique, silver body technique. His bronze body technique had long been perfected. However, cultivating the body refining technique required medicinal ingredients. Yixing had not had time to collect medicinal ingredients, so he stopped cultivating the body refining technique for a period of time. Now that Yixing had obtained 3 upper-grade medicinal ingredients, he naturally wanted to take this opportunity to cultivate the body refining technique. If his silver body technique was cultivated to the great accomplishment realm, it would be much easier to defeat Xiong Qisheng. These 3 upper-grade medicinal ingredients were all sealwort fruit. The sealwort fruit was much larger than the blood dike. Therefore, although they were both upper-grade medicinal ingredients, one sealwort fruit was at least equivalent to the total medicinal strength of 10 blood dike. The medicinal strength of 3 sealwort fruits was no less than 30 blood dike. Moreover, Yixing had eaten too many blood dike, so continuing to eat would not have much effect. However, he had not eaten the sealwort fruit yet. It was very effective for his silver body technique cultivation. Time passed day by day, and soon, 10 days had passed. Originally, Yixing estimated that even if his cultivation method was of a higher grade, allowing him to refine the high-rank accumulating star pills faster than other cultivators, it would still take him at least a month to refine and absorb 10 high-rank accumulating star pills. However, to his surprise, in just 10 days, he had absorbed and refined all the medicinal strength of 10 upper-grade star accumulation pills. His cultivation had been promoted to the peak of LV6. Other martial artists would take at least 2 or 3 months to refine 10 upper-grade star accumulation pills. Is the effect of Qingyuan technique so incredible after being improved to the supreme level? Yixing felt strange and could not understand. He could only attribute the reason to his supreme level Qingyuan technique. Not only did Yixing refine and absorb the upper-grade star accumulation pills quickly, but so did the sealwort fruit. In 10 days, Yixing had absorbed more than 90% of the medicinal strength of the 3 sealwort fruits, and his silver body technique had broken through to the great accomplishment realm as he wished. Yixing had only used 3 yellow essence fruits to cultivate the silver body technique to the profound realm. It was not easy to cultivate an upper-grade body refining technique. In fact, other martial artists could not cultivate the silver body technique to the profound realm even if they had 10 yellow essence fruits. The reasons why Yixing could do so were, firstly, Yixing's bronze body technique had been cultivated to the perfection realm and was extremely consolidated. Secondly, Yixing's skeleton cultivation was complete. The further he progressed, the more important the complete skeleton cultivation was. Thirdly, Yixing had used the super brain to deduce and improve the silver body technique, so he had the best cultivation method. The resources of the body technique were naturally important, but the body's absorption of resources was also important. With the same resources, different martial artists' final attainments in the body technique were absolutely different. That was the difference in the body's absorption of resources. Because of these 3 reasons, it was very difficult for other martial artists to cultivate the upper-grade body technique to the great accomplishment realm. Even if Yixing put in 10 times the effort and 10 times the resources, he might not be able to achieve it. Firstly, it was difficult to cultivate the upper-grade body technique. Secondly, when a martial artist reached the 7th level of cultivation, the internal strength became very important. Martial artists began to focus on the internal strength and ignore the physical body. Therefore, almost no 7th-level martial artists could cultivate the upper-grade body technique to the great accomplishment realm. Even for 8th-level martial artists, there were not many who could cultivate the upper-grade body technique to the great accomplishment realm. The 3 sealwort fruits and 10 upper-grade star accumulation pills were all consumed. Without the cultivation resources, he did not know how long it would take for him to reach the 7th level of the martial Tao with the resources of 1 upper-grade star accumulation pill per month. It should be time for him to go to the Qingyun Mountains to gain experience. Yixing asked Chu Haoren for a leave of absence. Regardless of whether it was theory class or practical class, Yixing was able to answer all of Cui Haoren's questions with full marks. Sometimes, his answers were even more comprehensive and accurate than Cui Haoren. Cui Haoren felt that there was nothing he could teach Yixing. Yixing's request for leave was naturally approved. Even Yixing's leave of absence for Wu Yuan and Ma Bo was approved by Chu Haoren. If it were other freshmen, it was basically impossible for them to leave the academy for a long time. The 3 of them took 3 demonic horses from the academy and left the Purple Mountain Academy, heading towards the Emerald Cloud Mountains. Vice Principal, Yixing has left the academy. I heard that he asked for a leave of absence to train. He went to the Azure Cloud Mountain Range. Just as Yixing left the academy, Wang Haiqing's spy reported to him. Wang Haiqing's eyes lit up. Because the conflict between him and Yixing was known by all the teachers and students of the Zishan Academy, it was not easy for Wang Haiqing to deal with Yixing in the academy. He would be gossiped about. If Yixing had left the academy, it would be easy to deal with. Going out to gain experience had a certain degree of danger. It was normal for him to die outside. Wang Haiqing immediately went to the Beast Garden. As the vice principal, he had a flying mount, a high-grade vicious beast, blue-winged eagle. The demon horses that Yi Xing and the other two rode were mid-grade vicious beasts. They were very fast. Without a flying mount, it would be difficult to catch up. Wang Haiqing had just arrived at the beast garden. Before he could release the blue-winged eagle, he heard the sound of something breaking through the air. The sound of something breaking through the air disappeared in an instant and was replaced by the sound of something sharp piercing wood. Wang Haiqing looked towards the direction of the sound. There was a black arrow stuck in the tree beside him. The tail of the arrow was slightly trembling. It was clear that the arrow's power was terrifying. If the target of this arrow was him, Wang Haiqing would not have been able to dodge in such a short period of time. He would have been killed by the arrow. This made Wang Haiqing's back break out in a layer of cold sweat. However, what really made his heart tremble was the owner of this arrow. In the Zishan County, there was only one person who could shoot an arrow to his side without him knowing where the person who shot the arrow was. A voice sounded in Wang Haiqing's ears, "As the vice principal, you have been unfair and have failed in your duty. Since you are eager to protect your disciple, I will not argue with you. However, if you harm a student's life, I will not forgive you." There was no one around Wang Haiqing. The person who spoke was clearly using profound inner strength to transmit his voice from 1,000 miles away. Wang Haiqing's face was filled with shock as fear flashed across his eyes. He never expected that Yi Xing would attract the attention of such a person, even to the point of being protected. "I will obey the Marquis order." Wang Haiqing was covered in cold sweat. He clasped his hands together and bowed respectfully. The person who transmitted the voice was Zishan Ho. No wonder Wang Haiqing was so frightened. Zishan Ho basically did not interfere with the matters of the academy. Today, he had warned him for Yi Xing. This made Wang Haiqing even more shocked. However, Wang Haiqing was not the only one who was concerned about Yi Xing's whereabouts. 20 miles north of the county city, in a secret room in the mountains, a black-robed man also received the news that Yi Xing had left the Zishan Academy and was heading towards the Qingyun Mountains. "My nephew Jingling died because of him. My Dark Knight lost a pillar of support. Today, I will personally take his life." After a short while, a high-level vicious beast, the Qingfeng eagle, flew out from the mountains. More than 5 hours without a single monthly ticket, this is not normal. Begging for monthly votes. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.